Chapter 1530. In that case, the heaven and earth map collapsed because Master killed Taishang Laojun. After listening to Qing Pin's words, Lady Yunxiao said excitedly. She finally found the answer to the question that she could not find for 1,000 years. However, Lady Yunxiao still had another question. What was the yellow light that saved her from the heaven and earth map? It's Master. It's Master who saved you. Qingping's sword immediately patted his chest and said, after Taishang Laojun died, Master still had a breath left. He probably saw that you were trapped in the heaven and earth map, so he used the last bit of his strength to save you from the heaven and earth map. After all, Taishang Laojun was already dead at that time. It was a simple matter for Master to save you from an ownerless heaven and earth map. I see. Lady Yunxiao suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed a dozen times. Her eyes were filled with tears as she said, Master, I will never forget Master's great kindness. I didn't expect Master to think of saving me even at the brink of death. I will never forget Master's love for me. I will be Master's disciple for the rest of my life. Lady Yunxiao cried as she spoke with sincerity. It could be seen that Lady Yunxiao was really in love with Master Tongtian. When sect leader Tongtian was at his last breath, he still wanted to save his disciple. How could Lady Yunxiao not be touched by such a deep relationship between Master and disciple? Master is mighty. Master is so kind. We will never forget it. Seeing this, the incongruence Divine Mother knelt down with Mistress Yunxiao in excitement and shouted. This also became a shadow. Under the influence of Goddess Yunxiao and Goddess Wudong, all the monsters below the stage knelt down one after another. Although most of these monsters were born in this alternate space, they did not have any feelings for Tongtian, nor would they care about Tongtian's kindness. Some of them even deeply resented sect leader Tongtian. After all, because of sect leader Tongtian's failure, they were born in this alternate space and could not escape for the rest of their lives. However, they had no choice but to shout along with the others. Otherwise, they believed that the incongruence Divine Mother and Lady Yunxiao would not let these ungrateful people off. If these guys knew the truth, I don't know what would happen. Ji Yuhan sighed in his heart when he saw these demons shouting long live sect leader Tongtian. The story about sect leader Tongtian that Qing Ju had just told them was, of course, something that Ji Yuhan had processed. In Guhan's memory, sect leader Tongtian's Dharma power was usually red and green. Although he could use golden Dharma power, sect leader Tongtian hated golden Dharma power. Unless it was necessary, he would not use golden Dharma power. Therefore, the person who saved Yunxiao was definitely not sect leader Tongtian. According to Ji Yuhan's conjecture, the truth of the matter should be like this. The one who really rescued Yunxiao from the map of the world, or in other words, released Yunxiao from the map of the world, should be Taishang Laojun. After all, Taishang Laojun's supernatural power was the real golden supernatural power, and Taishang Laojun's map of the world did not completely collapse in that battle. Instead, it was used by Taishang Laojun and the Taiji map to refine the seamless corridor, which was used to seal the remaining spirit of sect leader Tongtian. How could it collapse and be saved by sect leader Tongtian, who was on the verge of doomsday? At that time, the reason why the map of the world began to collapse was that Taishang Laojun wanted to use it to refine the seamless corridor with the Taiji diagram. Therefore, the map of the world itself collapsed. This process was controllable from beginning to end. It was under Taishang Laojun's control. Obviously, the reason why Yunxiao could come out of the map of the world was that Taishang Laojun let her go. He could not bear to see Yunxiao die in the map of the world, so he spared her life and gave her freedom again. However, why did he put Yunxiao back in the Aquamarine Palace? This was worth Guhan's careful consideration. According to Guhan's guess, the greatest possibility was that Taishang Laojun already knew the existence of the dimensional space. However, because he did not want to destroy the last trace of his bloodline, he let the dimensional space exist there and did not interfere with it. As for putting Yunxiao in that position, there was a possibility that Taishang Laojun hoped that Yunxiao could also enter the dimensional space and live with her senior and junior brothers. She would not get involved in the affairs of the outside world and live a stable life. Another possibility was that Taishang Laojun was secretly plotting something, and Yunxiao was a chess piece of Taishang Laojun. She was used by Taishang Larojun to plot against sect master Tongtian. However, this was just Guhan's guess. As for the truth of the matter, only Guhan's cheap master Taishang Larojun knew. Unfortunately, this guy was too mysterious. He had already accepted Guhan as his disciple, but he was still unwilling to tell everything to Guhan. As a result, the truth that Guhan learned from Taishang Larojun was not as much as the truth from the saint's relic. There was no one in the world who was more unlike his master than Taishang Larojun. Guhan, why did you make me tell such a lie? Shouldn't you have asked me to make things worse for the old master? Why are these people more respectful of old master? While Lady Yun Xiao, Matriarch Wudong, and the other monsters were crying and shouting, Lady Yun Xiao, Old Mother Wudong, and many monsters were crying and shouting. Qingpin, who could not even eat properly because of the crying and shouting, asked Guhan curiously, "Are you Qingpin or Qingping now?" Guhan did not answer Qingpin's question directly. Instead, he asked such a question. "Oh, you know." Qingpin was shocked, and his chubby little face puffed up. You can hide it from others, but how can you hide it from me? Did Qingping get rid of your control again and occupy your body? Guhan said directly. Yes. Qingpin nodded, puffed up his cheeks, and said, I suppressed her for a long time, but I didn't expect her to become very emotional after hearing what happened to those monsters. I was caught off guard, and she took control of my body again. But it doesn't matter, I have suppressed her, and she will definitely be more vigilant this time. Well, then I'll answer your question just now. You asked me why I didn't say bad things about sect leader Tongtian, because I know it's useless to say bad things about sect leader Tongtian. Be it Goddess Wudong or Yun Xiao, they are the most loyal disciples of sect leader Tongtian. They won't accept sect leader Tongtian's bad words. Instead, they might even doubt your identity. You'd better go along with their emotions and say more good things about sect leader Tongtian. Describe sect leader Tongtian in a way that they like. In this way, they will think that you're the same kind of person, and you can get more useful information from them. Most importantly, I have a feeling that sect leader Tongtian will definitely return here. I'm going to set up an ambush for him here, so these monsters must become more loyal to sect leader Tongtian. In this way, sect leader Tongtian will let down his guard, and I'll be able to prepare a fatal blow to sect leader Tongtian, Guhan said faintly, but the deep killing intent in his words made Qingpin shudder, and his whole body began to tremble. What's wrong? Seeing that Qingpin's body was a little strange, Guhan squinted his eyes and asked. Nothing, the Qingping in my body heard that you are going to kill the old master, so she became emotional again. But it doesn't matter, I can suppress her, Qingpin said reluctantly. Don't force yourself. If you can't do it, I will return you to my sword. With the suppression of my sword essence, it's impossible for Qingping to escape. Guhan said faintly. No need, I can definitely suppress her. Qingpin's face turned red, and then his body gradually began to calm down. Holy Mother Wudong and Mistress Yun Xiao shouted for a long time before their emotions gradually calmed down. Seeing that the two of them had calmed down, the other demons heaved a sigh of relief and gradually calmed down. Holy Mother Wudong and Mistress Yun Xiao spoke a few more words to Qingping, confirming her identity even more. They also became more and more respectful towards Qingping. Coincidentally, at this moment, a demon suddenly walked to Holy Mother Wudong's side and whispered into her ears. Holy Mother Wudong's face bloomed with a cold smile, and she said to Qingping, Ancestor Qingping, there's going to be a good show next. I wonder if Ancestor is willing to go with us to watch. What show? Qingping asked curiously. It's like this. Holy Mother Wudong laughed. Those human slaves outside were originally used by us to capture longevity fruit. Occasionally, we would kill some of them to make a sumptuous meal, but they aren't anything valuable. I've never counted the number. If it wasn't for Mistress Yun Xiao suddenly telling me that the number of humans outside seemed to be fewer, I wouldn't have realized that the number of humans in this alternate dimension had actually decreased by half. Thus, I sent some invisible demons to mix in with these humans. In the end, I found out that someone had actually opened a path outside and led these humans to escape. The two children who brought you here were originally two of the last batch of humans who escaped. In the end, I don't know how they brought you back, but that's quite strange. Just based on this point, I originally wanted to kill Master, but on account of the merit of bringing you back, I spared their lives. However, it's said that these humans outside are going to steal people again today. I plan to bring some people to ambush them and then follow their path out. Since they stole 100 of our slaves, then we will capture all of those humans as slaves and offer them to Master as sacrifices. Offer them to Master, ha 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 ha. Chapter 1531. Why haven't the two people from Yuzhang arrived as promised? In an extremely secluded cave in the alternate dimension, there were nearly 100 humans curled up on both sides of the cave. In the entire cave, there was only one well-dressed person, and that person was Amakusa Ichiro. However, Amakusa Ichiro was feeling uneasy. According to the agreement, the two people from Yuzhang should have arrived at this cave by now, but why hadn't they appeared yet? Could it be that these two people stood me up? Ichiro Amakusa guessed, but he quickly dismissed the idea. Impossible. Amakusa Ichiro muttered to himself. Those two people entered this place by mistake. Without our guidance, they won't be able to leave this place. In order to escape, they will definitely come here on time. Just as Amakusa Ichiro was feeling troubled, a door suddenly opened in the cave. This door was not the dimensional door that Guhan and Amakusa Ichiro used to enter. Instead, the inner wall of the cave was pulled open, and two human swordsmen walked out from the other side of the door. It seemed that this door was connected to a secret passage inside the mountain. Is everyone here this time? The governor is waiting for us, the two people immediately said as soon as they entered the cave. All the natives here are here, a total of 100 people. Amakusa Ichiro nodded. Very well, let's not waste any more time. Since everyone is here, let's leave now. The other two people in charge of receiving them said hurriedly. At the same time, they began to call for the natives in the cave to evacuate through the secret passage. Brothers, wait, there are still two people not here. Amakusa Ichiro said through gritted teeth. What do you mean there are still two people? We just counted, there are indeed 100 natives here, no more, no less. Why are there two people missing? The two newcomers said in confusion. It's like this, I actually met two people from Yuzhang here. So, Amakusa Ichiro told the two newcomers about his encounter, and the two newcomers immediately fell into a state of shock. They didn't expect to be discovered by a second group of people here. This was too much of a coincidence. However, the other party was a human, so there shouldn't be any big problems. Did you really set up a time and place with them and told them to meet here? The two new sword-bearers confirmed. I'm sure. How could I forget to tell them these things? Ichiro Amakusa said helplessly. Not good, we might have been exposed. A new sword wielder's expression changed drastically. Those two humans have probably been captured by demons. Those demons are strange and bizarre. I heard from the city lord that those monsters are extremely powerful. They might even have a method to search souls. If the two sword-bearers are exposed, I'm afraid our operation will be exposed as well. F***ck. Hearing this person's words, Amakusa Ichiro instantly understood. That's right, these two people were most likely captured by the monsters, and there was a high possibility that they would be exposed. Go, everyone, go now, don't stay. Thinking of this, Amakusa Ichiro did not dare to delay any longer. He immediately urged the humans on the ground to enter the secret passage. At this moment, two golden balls of light instantly shot into the cave. More than a dozen humans were caught off guard and were directly strangled by these balls of light. More monsters rushed in after the balls of light. We're really exposed. Seeing the monsters swarming in, Amakusa Ichiro understood what was going on. He gritted his teeth and said fiercely, those two people from Yuzhang, why did I tell them where to gather? They are useless. At this time, Amakusa Ichiro regretted his carelessness. At that time, he thought that if he, a sword-bearer, could enter and exit the city of monsters freely, the two sword-bearers of famed swords should also be very safe. So, without thinking too much, he told them the truth. However, he did not expect that the two people from Yuzhang would be so stupid that they would be caught by these monsters. Thinking of it now, Amakusa Ichiro really regretted it. Amakusa Ichiro had never suspected that the two people from Yuzhang would betray them. After all, except for Mingyuan Jendi, there was almost no example of a swordbearer betraying them. The survival of the race forced everyone to unite. Therefore, Amakusa Ichiro believed that the two people from Yuzhang would not betray them on their own. The biggest possibility was that they had been caught by the monsters. Brothers, what should we do now? Amakusa Ichiro looked at the monsters rushing out of the cave entrance, then looked at the 50 to 60 indigenous people who had not entered the secret passage, and asked the other two swordbearers anxiously. What else can we do? These are our compatriots of the Yamato people. We must never abandon them. The leading swordbearer gritted his teeth and said, We'll stay here and fight desperately until all the Yamato people escape. Don't worry, I think these monsters are at most at the Dragon Realm. We can hold them off. The other two nodded at the words of the leading swordbearer. The three of them released their sword maidens and fought with the monsters near the entrance of the cave. They tried their best to buy time so that the remaining indigenous people could escape through the secret passage. I wonder which sect these humans are from. All of them have immortal swords with sword spirits. They can even transform immortal swords into human forms. This sect is really powerful. Seeing the three sword-bearers transform their swords into sword maidens, Incongruent's Divine Mother and Cloudy Sky were shocked. They could not help but be shocked by the three humans' strength. In the Primeval Age, only those perfected immortals with extremely profound cultivation could transform the celestial sword into a human form and fight with the spirituality in the celestial sword. Be it cultivation or the celestial sword, they were 1 in a million. In the entire Jie school, there were less than 20 people who could do this. All of them were the backbone of the Jie school. Even Goddess Wudong and Lady Yun Xiao might not be a match for these 20 people. Therefore, when they saw the three humans transform into human forms, the two swordbearers were really afraid. Only God knew how powerful the humans outside were. If there were 20 more of them, the entire alternate dimension would be completely destroyed. Chapter 1532. No, these three sword immortals are strange. Their human forms are too weak. Also, why didn't they join the battle themselves? Instead, they hid behind their immortal swords. At first, the Incongruent's Divine Mother and Lady Yun Xiao were shocked by the three sword-wielding men. However, after observing them closely, the two of them realized that something was wrong. If they were really sword immortals from the Primeval era, the sword's human form was just an interesting supplementary attack. The sword immortals' real combat power was actually the sword immortals themselves. They could only unleash their true combat power when they held the sword in their hands or fought with the sword. However, the three humans in front of them were hiding at the back. They did not look like they had powerful combat power. Instead, they looked like they needed to rely on the sword's human form for protection. Senior Sister Wudong, it seems like the outside world has changed a lot. Something must have happened that we don't know about. These three people are definitely not real sword immortals. Lady Yunxiao frowned and said, also, we can't drag this on any longer. Most of the natives have already escaped. If we continue fighting like this, I'm afraid they'll all run away. Then what do you want? Goddess Wudong squinted her eyes and asked. Let the four wind immortals fight. Lady Yunxiao answered. Let the four of them fight? Aren't you overestimating these three? Goddess Wudong said in disdain. It's fine. Let's end this quickly. Lady Yunxiao smiled. Okay. Divine Mother Wudong nodded. She turned around and gave a few orders with a deep voice. Then, four ugly monsters with different heads strode out from the group behind her and rushed into the cave. These four monsters had a tiger head, a lion head, a leopard head, and a white wolf head respectively. Because they had mastered different wind spells, they gathered together and were called the Four Wind Immortals. The tiger head was the East Wind Immortal, the lion head was the North Wind Immortal, the leopard head was the South Wind Immortal, and the white wolf head was the North Wind Immortal. These four people were all third-generation disciples of the tribe of Severity. During the War of Investiture of Gods, they had already gained some fame in the tribe of Severity. Later on, They followed sect leader Tongtian to participate in the innumerable immortal array battle and even escaped with sect leader Tongtian. They were one of the last 300 disciples of sect leader Tongtian. When ancestor Hong Jun appeared to block Tongtian, the four of them were quick-witted and escaped to the Aquamarine Palace in advance to report the news. Finally, they hid in this alternate dimension with Divine Mother Wudong. From this, it could be seen that these four monsters were already experts before the myriad immortal array. Now that hundreds of thousands of years had passed, their abilities had naturally become even more powerful. To be more specific, these four monsters were probably at the level of the meteor realm Yuan Ku. Therefore, when the four demons attacked, the three sword-bearers who were initially evenly matched with the demons in front of them could not hold on any longer. The four demons merely blew a mouthful of immortal chi, and the three sword ladies were on the verge of collapse. They couldn't even brandish their swords. As for the three sword-bearers, they were instantly blown away and slammed heavily into the mountain wall. If it weren't for the protection of their close-fitting shields, they would have been smashed into a pile of minced meat. They are indeed very fragile. They are not sword immortals at all. Divine Mother Wudong said resentfully when she saw this scene. She was actually fooled by these three little guys. It was really embarrassing. Big brother, I'm afraid the three of us are going to die here, Ichiro Amakusa said to the other two with a wry smile. At first, when they found that they were evenly matched with the demons, they were relieved, thinking that they still had a great chance of escaping this time. However, it wasn't until the four immortals of wind attacked at the same time that they were directly blown away that they realized that the four enemies were actually all meteor realm Yuan Ku, which was equivalent to the human spirit sword realm sword-bearers. Only then did they realize that the real powerhouses of the enemy had not even made a move. Once they made a move, they were destined to die. The three sword-bearers knew very well that it was impossible for them to defeat four meteor realm Yuan Ku with just one famed sword-level sword-bearer and two treasure sword-level sword-bearers. Therefore, they were left with only death. Big brother, you are a famed sword-level sword-bearer. You are more important to our Yamato city. Escape first, we will buy you some time. Ichiro Amakusa struggled to stand up from the ground. As he spat out a mouthful of blood, he said to the famed sword-level sword-bearer, How can I abandon you all? The famed sword-level sword-bearer immediately refused. Big brother, now is not the time for pleasantries. If no one is there to open the door for these natives, they will all die. Let us buy you some last bit of time. Amakusa Ichiro suddenly pushed the body of the famed sword-rank swordsman into the secret passage, then kicked the last few natives who were left outside into the passage as well. Then, he and the other sword-rank swordsman led the last two sword maidens to block the entrance of the secret passage. It was obvious that they were using their own lives to buy time. Chmph, idiots. So what if you can buy me some time? I don't need a single breath to catch up to those humans. The incongruous Divine Mother sneered and then gave the four immortals of wind a look, signaling them to end the battle quickly. Yes. The four immortals of wind immediately understood and took out their respective magic treasures from their waists. They poured all their demonic power into the treasures and waved them. Four extremely violent gusts of wind rushed towards Ichiro Amakusa and the Sacred Mother of Wind. Goodbye, this damned world. Seeing the four gusts of wind, Ichiro Amakusa and the Sacred Mother of Wind knew that it was impossible for them to escape. They were about to die in this alternate dimension together with their sword ladies and be torn to pieces by the four gusts of wind. So, the two of them closed their eyes and prepared for the moment of their death. It's too early to wait for death. After waiting for a while, the two of them realized that they didn't seem to have died. Then, a familiar voice sounded in their ears. They immediately raised their heads and saw a man and a woman standing in front of them with their sword mistresses. The two of you are finally here. Ichiro Amakusa cried tears of joy when he saw the two of them. I'm sorry, we were delayed by some matters and came a little late. Guhan, who had slightly disguised himself, said cheerfully. His cheerful voice instantly calmed Ichiro Amakusa and the Sacred Mother of Wind. Although the two of them did not know Guhan at all, it was as if everything would be fine as long as Guhan was here. Well, now is not the time for us to catch up. You two escape through the secret passage first. We will cover for you, Song Ifei said quickly. At the same time, he was struggling to resist the attack of the 4 immortals of wind. No, you are here to save us. How can we let you fight here? Hurry up and leave, we will cover for you, Ichiro Amakusa said. What's with all this nonsense? Guhan was getting impatient. He kicked the 2 of them on their butts and sent them back into the secret passage. At the same time, he began to slowly retreat into the secret passage. Damn it! Just when Guhan and Song Ifei were about to leave, a cold snort suddenly sounded in the cave. Then, 2 silver-white lights instantly pierced the chest of Guhan and Song Ifei. Block it! Guhan and Song Ifei used all their strength to block it. Both of them were hit and spat out blood at the same time. However, they still managed to catch the silver-white light. Then, they took advantage of this moment to sneak into the secret passage. What? These 2 humans actually caught my heavenly light? Lady Yunxiao looked at her own hands and said in disbelief. Yunxiao, now is not the time to be in a daze. Let's go. Incongruent's divine mother scolded and followed Lady Yunxiao into the secret passage. Chapter 1533. When the desolate level Yuan Ku chased after someone, his power was naturally extraordinary. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that if the Incongruent's divine mother and Lady Yunxiao were to give their all, the entire hill would be flattened by them in less than a second. The human hiding in the secret passage would naturally die. However, Goddess Wudong and Queen Yunxiao did not dare to do that. The reason was simple. This was an alternate space, one that was pieced together by various pieces. There was a huge limitation to such an alternate space, which was that the space itself was extremely unstable. If there was an overly intense battle in the space, such as flattening a hill, the alternate space itself would be greatly damaged. Hence, the alternate space might be destroyed as well. With Goddess Wudong and Queen Yunxiao's abilities, it would be easy for them to escape if the alternate space was destroyed. However, the problem was that the disciples of the Jie school would not be able to escape from the alternate space. They would most likely be destroyed along with the alternate space. This was something that Goddess Wudong and Queen Yunxiao definitely did not want to see and could not accept. Hence, after thinking for a while, they finally decided to chase after the enemies with their physical bodies. They would only use a small area of power to capture the humans alive or kill them directly. Ifei, escape with them. I'll stay here and block these 2 women, Guhan said to Song Ifei when he saw Queen Yunxiao and Goddess Wudong chasing after them. On the surface, he was telling Song Ifei that he hoped that Song Ifei could protect the others, but in reality, Ji Yuhan was afraid that the battle between him and the 2 experts would affect Song Ifei. With Song Ifei's current abilities, he might be seriously injured in the battle. Hence, Ji Yuhan could only send Song Ifei away in advance, leaving him to block the Incongruent's divine mother and Lady Yunxiao alone. Human, just give up. I swear in the name of the Jie school that as long as you cooperate with us, I can spare your life, Queen Yunxiao said indifferently when she saw Guhan blocking in front of her. What's with all the nonsense? Let's do it. Guhan took out the Chijian sword in his hand. Initially, it would have been better to use the 4 fairy slaying swords and the Shenyuan sword. However, the problem was that he believed that Mistress Yunxiao and the Incongruent's divine mother would recognize these 5 swords. Hence, he decided to only use the Chijian sword to fight. Anyway, in terms of material, the starting point sword was definitely made with the material of an Emperor sword level sword lady. It would not be at a disadvantage in terms of weapons. How foolish. Go to hell then. The Incongruent's Saint Mother was infuriated by this human who didn't know what was good for him. She was kind enough to spare his life, but she didn't expect this human to be so ungrateful. Since that was the case, the Incongruent's divine mother made up her mind to kill this damned human. After all, there were still 3 or 4 living people behind her. When the time came, all she needed to do was to leave one alive and ask about the outside world. As she didn't take Ji Yuhan seriously from the beginning, the Incongruent's divine mother attacked rather casually. She didn't even use any specific technique. She just condensed a huge gust of goblin power and smashed it directly at Ji Yuhan's head, planning to blast Ji Yuhan into minced meat. However, one shouldn't underestimate this goblin power. Although she didn't use any techniques, the dense goblin power itself was the strongest demonic technique. The reason why monsters created all sorts of demonic techniques was that they didn't have enough goblin power themselves. They needed demonic techniques to cause greater damage. However, if the goblin power itself was extremely dense, then in terms of lethality, a huge gust of goblin power would definitely surpass demonic techniques of the same level. The incongruence Divine Mother had been cooped up in this alternate space for hundreds of thousands of years. Apart from cultivating goblin power and splitting consciousness fragments, there was nothing else she could do. Her goblin power had already reached an extremely dense level. When this gust of goblin power smashed down, it was roughly equivalent to the full power of an immortal sword-level swordsman. As long as it landed on any spiritual sword-level swordsman, this swordsman wouldn't be able to survive. Unfortunately, Guhan wasn't a spiritual sword-level swordsman. Currently, Guhan was already a genuine Jendi. However, in order to hide his true strength, Guhan still pretended to be strenuous to resist. After withstanding the gust of goblin power, he broke into a run and fled. This human is quite capable. He actually withstood it. Ever since Emperor Huang Shenyuan, there hasn't been such a powerful human in a long time. Seeing that Guhan actually withstood her goblin power, the incongruence Divine Mother said in shock. Although the protagonists of the Great War of deification of the gods back then were humans, they were actually just the few to push the plot forward. The ones who really fought were the disciples of the Je school and the other three schools. The strongest among the humans was just like Jiang Xia, who relied on the god striking whip and the deification list to intimidate others. Without these two things, the incongruence Divine Mother was confident that with a gust of goblin power, Jiang Xia would be turned into ashes on the spot. His performance would definitely not be as strong as the human in front of her. Junior Sister Wudang is a little too soft-hearted after all. Lady Yun Xiao smiled. When we catch up to him again, Junior Sister Wudang, don't go easy on him again. Of course. This brat won't be able to escape again, the incongruence Divine Mother said hatefully. The two of them chased after him again. Not long after, they found Guhan, who was running for his life. At the same time, they also saw the exit of the secret passage. It was a cave entrance that was glowing with white light. A large number of humans and aborigines were leaving the mountain through the cave entrance. Damn it, there's a crack entrance there. We actually didn't know about it. Seeing the exit, the incongruence Divine Mother was shocked. At first, they thought that the reason why the humans came in was because they mastered the spells of Je school. In the end, they found out that there was a crack entrance in the alternate space. The entrance was actually hidden deep inside the mountain. That was why the incongruence Divine Mother and the rest had never discovered it. They only realized it today. Junior Sister, this is great news. Seeing the entrance, Lady Yun Xiao smiled in surprise. We've always been worried that opening the seal from the inside would destroy the entire alternate space. Now that there's a naturally formed crack entrance, we can enter and exit the outside world freely. Isn't this great news? That's right. That's great news. Hearing that, the incongruence Divine Mother cried out in surprise. However, she did not relax her grip. More than 10 streams of monster power instantly smashed towards the natives who had yet to escape. She planned to kill these damned humans first. Hurry up and run. Ji Yuhan roared and once again blocked in front of the incongruence Divine Mother. However, this time, Guhan could only use his personal shield to block the attack. In the end, he was hit by the incongruence Divine Mother and spat out 4 to 5 mouthfuls of blood. He felt terrible. Damned little B****, you actually blocked my good news again. The incongruence Divine Mother stomped her feet in anger. While Ji Yuhan used his life to block the attack, the remaining aborigines had already escaped. Only the swordbearers were left in the cave. Don't even think about leaving. Lady Yun Xiao could not stand it anymore. Her snow-white sleeves suddenly grew out like 2 long snakes and coiled around the waists of the remaining human swordbearers. She wanted to keep these humans in the cave. Hurry up and leave. Ji Yuhan roared again. Then, a few sword lights flashed and Lady Yun Xiao's sleeves were all cut off by Ji Yuhan. The remaining swordbearers seized the opportunity to escape. Little b****, I'm going to skin you alive. Seeing that most of her prey had escaped, the incongruent's Divine Mother's anger towards Jiyu Han was at its peak. This time, she did not hold back anymore. She took out a pyramid-like object and threw it at Jiyu Han. The pyramid grew at an extremely fast speed. In the end, it became the size of a small mountain and smashed towards Jiyu Han. Just you wait, I'll be back. Guhan continued to roar. Then, Little 3 smashed onto Jiyu Han's body. Seeing that Jiyu Han was about to be crushed under the mountain, Jiyu Han nimbly tapped the ground with his sword and changed the direction of his body. Instead, he used the momentum of the small mountain to fly out of the cave. Damn! The incongruent's Divine Mother's face froze. Could this human be a loach? He actually managed to escape from me time and time again. Junior sister, don't panic. They just escaped from this world. When we get out of here, we can. Before Lady Yun Xiao could finish her sentence, her entire body stiffened. That was because Lady Yun Xiao had also arrived outside the cave. However, she did not leave through the cave. Instead, she was blocked by the cave as if there was an invisible barrier. What's going on? Senior sister, why don't you leave? Seeing Lady Yun Xiao's reaction, the incongruent's Divine Mother asked curiously. It's not that I don't want to leave. Master won't let me leave. Lady Yun Xiao replied with a bitter smile. The incongruent's Divine Mother was even more confused. However, the incongruent's Divine Mother soon figured out what was going on. When she sensed the barrier at the exit, she was shocked to find that there was a consciousness fragment left behind by the sect leader of Tongtian at the exit. There was only one message in this consciousness fragment. The sect leader of Tongtian told his disciples that he would return one day. Before he returned, all of his disciples had to stay in this alternate space obediently and were not allowed to leave. Otherwise, they would be punished according to the sect rules. Sigh, I didn't expect it to be all for naught in the end. We still can't leave this place. After knowing the consciousness left by the sect leader of Tongtian, the incongruent's Divine Mother said dejectedly. Although she could leave this damned place as long as she took a step forward at this moment. However, she had no choice but to retreat obediently because of the consciousness fragment left behind by the sect leader of Tongtian. She did not dare to take a step forward. However, this is also a good thing. He wants to tell us that Master is not dead. He will definitely return. Compared to the incongruent's Divine Mother's dejection, Lady Yun Xiao said with a smile. Chapter 1534. Brother Jiyu Fan, the three of us will never forget your and your wife's great kindness. If you and your wife need any errands in this lifetime, as long as you and your wife say the word, we will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. After escaping from the dimensional rift, the three swordsmen immediately knelt in front of Flowing Time Maple and thanked him gratefully. Sigh. Cough cough. That's. Cough cough. That's too much. We're all humans. Cough cough. Of course. Cough cough. We should support each other. Cough cough. Jiyu Han kept coughing out blood as he spoke. This scene made the three swordsmen even more grateful. They almost swore to the heavens that they would be Jiyu Han's sons for the rest of their lives. That's strange. Why aren't those two monsters chasing after us? One of the swordsmen asked curiously when he saw that there was no reaction from the dimensional rift and that there were no monsters chasing after them. Cough cough. Who knows? Cough cough. Perhaps they can't leave that place, Guhan said while coughing. However, he knew the reason why Goddess Incongruence and Lady Yunxiao did not chase after them. This was because he had seen the consciousness fragment left behind by the sect master in the dimensional rift. Therefore, Guhan knew that these two monsters, who respected his master very much, would never go against his master's will. It was just like how Lucy Hua would never go against his master's will. However, the sect master of Tongtian has indeed been resurrected. That consciousness fragment was clearly left there not long ago. At the same time, Guhan also sensed that the consciousness fragment was very fresh. It did not seem like a consciousness fragment left behind from thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. The sect master of Tongtian must have been here before and might have even wandered around this exit. However, For some unknown reason, the sect master of Tongtian did not enter the alternate dimension. He only left behind this consciousness fragment to warn his disciple not to leave through this place. Brother Jiyu Fan, hurry up and enter the medical pod to recuperate. Otherwise, your body will become even worse. Seeing that Jiyu Han was still coughing out blood, Amakusa Ichiro tried to persuade him worriedly. No. Jiyu Han shook his head in pain. Although we just escaped from the monster's territory, this is still Yuan Ku's territory. If another powerful Yuan Ku came looking for them, they would be finished. Moreover, you have to send these ordinary people to Yangjing City, which is thousands of miles away. It goes without saying that the journey will be difficult and arduous. If I stay in the medical cabin, I might die there. It's better to fight side by side with you. That way, the odds of success will be higher. Brother Gufan, you don't have to worry about this. The nearby Yuan Ku won't hurt us, and we've built a city nearby. As long as we send these people into the city, they'll be safe. It'll take less than 10 minutes. Ichiro Amakusa said quickly. Amakusa, you. Hearing Amakusa Ichiro speak the truth, the swordsman beside him glared at Amakusa Ichiro. Big brother, Brother Jiyu Fan doesn't want to risk his life to save us. Even if our Yamato city is exposed, I don't care. At worst, I'll just return Brother Jiyu Fan's life. Amakusa Ichiro said firmly. When the other two sword-bearers heard Amakusa Ichiro's words, they immediately fell silent. Guhan had saved Amakusa Ichiro's life, and so had they. What Yamato city? What are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Jiyu Han, who looked weak, asked strangely. Brother Jiyu Fan, don't worry about it. Take a good rest in the medical pod. When you reach our Yamato city, you'll know everything. Amakusa Ichiro sighed and forced Jiyu Han into the medical pod with Song Ifei. Seeing that the red light for treatment had lit up, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They carried Jiyu Han's medical pod and began to move in a certain direction. Just as Amakusa Ichiro had said, after walking for less than 10 minutes, they found a city in front of them. Rather than calling it a city, it was more like a lively village. There was not even a proper city wall around it, only a wall made of wood that was 7 or 8 meters high. This wooden wall was probably used to prevent humans from walking out of the village, not to prevent Yuan Ku from attacking from the outside. When they arrived at the entrance of the village, the gate of the village began to open slowly. A man wearing the traditional samurai robe of the Yamato people stood at the gate, welcoming the people who were returning. Wu Zhangxi, aren't you already dead? Seeing this man, Song Ifei was so shocked that his hands loosened and he almost dropped the medical cabin that was filled with the solid cold. Why is there an outsider here? Wu Shifang was also taken aback by Song Ifei's appearance. Ichiro Amakusa lowered his head and briefly told Wu Shifang what had just happened. So it was you two who saved my disciples. I am Wu Zhangxi, thank you both. After listening to Amakusa Ichiro's story, Wu Zhangxi bowed deeply to Song Ifei and Guhan, who was in the medical pod. Sword Sage Wu Zhang, you are too polite. Sword Sage Wu Zhang, why are you here? Didn't you already? Song Ifei could not wait to ask about it, but Wu Zhangxi waved his hand and smiled. You too, this is not a suitable place to talk. Why don't you follow me to the sword committee? I will naturally answer your questions. Wu Zhangxi said calmly. Forget it. We still have to go back to Yangjing City to report on the mission. Goodbye. Song Ifei stepped back, picked up the medical pod, and was ready to leave this place. Sai, you are our guests. You can take a rest before you leave. As soon as Wu Zhangxi's voice fell, 3 or 4 famed swordsmen came out from behind and blocked Song Ifei's way out. Because Song Ifei was playing the role of a famed swordsman, of course, he was no match for 3 or 4 people. He could only stand there angrily and look at Sword Sage Wu Zhang. After all, he had to put on a good show. Don't worry, no matter how much of a jerk I am, I will not hurt my compatriots. Let's just have a chat. Wu Zhangxi said again. This time, Song Ifei finally did not want to retreat. Instead, he obediently followed Wu Zhangxi and entered the sword committee. I've been wanting to ask just now. Miss, you look very familiar, and you even recognized me at a glance. May I ask if we have met before? Perhaps we used to be friends?" After carefully looking at Song Yifei, Wuzhang Shifang couldn't help but ask curiously. "My name is Song Yifei, and I do not have the fate to meet Sword Sage Wuzhang. As for how I know you, Sword Sage Wuzhang is famous all over the world. Who doesn't know him? What's so strange about me knowing him?" Song Yifei said in annoyance. Song Yifei, what a familiar name. I feel like I have heard it somewhere before. When Wuzhang Shi heard Song Yifei's name, he fell into deep thought. After thinking for 5 or 6 minutes, Wuzhang Shi finally seemed to remember something and asked, "Miss Song Yifei is Yuzhang City's swordsman, Baiju Sword Sage disciple. She is also Hongjun Sword Sage Guhan and Shihua Sword Sage Lu Shihua, as well as Frost Jendi and Liunian Ling. This guy actually remembers me." Hearing Wuzhang Shi directly read out his identity, Song Yifei was really shocked. Because he had been missing for more than 20 years, Song Yifei had always thought that the whole world had almost forgotten him. Unexpectedly, Wuzhang Shifang, a dignified sword wielder of the immortal sword grade, actually remembered his name and remembered his identity. This was really a little too surprising. Behind him, Amakusa Ichiro was also shocked. He did not expect Song Yifei's identity to be so amazing. He did not expect that Song Yifei's identity would be so great that he was related to so many big shots. He really met someone with a big background. Haha, a wrong decision back then caused a lasting regret. If I had let go of my pride and arrogance, then Hongjun Sword Sage would have been my disciple. Every time I think of this, I regret it. In addition, Hongjun Sword Sage is a genius, unparalleled in the world, so I naturally pay special attention to him. I also know a little more about the people and friends around him, so I remember the name Song Yifei. Wuzhang Shi said with a long sigh. He did not expect that it was because of Ji Yu Han again. By the way, Miss Song Yifei seems to have disappeared all traces 20 years ago. Even when I left Yangjing City 7 years ago, there was no news of Miss Song Yifei. If I did not see Miss Song Yifei with my own eyes today, I would have thought that Miss Song Yifei has. You think I am already dead, right? Song Yifei rolled his eyes at Wuzhang Shi. Sorry, not only did I not die, but I also came back to life. Haha, Miss Song Yifei is really a sentimental person. But don't vent your anger on me. Naturally, you have to find someone to vent your anger on. I don't want to be wronged. Wuzhang Shi laughed. Then explain your matter first, Song Yifei said coldly. What do you want me to explain? Wuzhang Shi asked. You, a guy who has been dead in the official records for 7 years, is actually standing in front of me alive. Shouldn't you give me a good explanation? Song Yifei snorted and asked. Don't worry, I will explain it. But Miss Song Yifei, please explain who is in this medical cabin. It is the good guy that I have hated for 20 years, Sword Sage Hongjun. Wuzhang Shifang snorted coldly. More than a dozen sword chi burst out in an instant, and the cover of the medical bay was cracked in an instant. A large amount of aquamarine restoration fluid gushed out of the medical bay. A figure appeared behind Wuzhang Shifang and said with a smile, Senior Wuzhang, long time no see. Chapter 1535. My little friend Guhan, it's really you. When Guhan really appeared in front of Wuzhang Shifang looked at the guy in front of him with a complicated gaze. This little guy, who had knelt in front of him and wanted to worship him as a teacher, but he had casually found a reason to reject him, was now standing proudly in front of him. At this time, he was standing at the peak of human beings and had become an emperor sword-level sword wielder. Even peerless masters like Ying Zheng and 12 Zhu Wu had died in his hands. In front of him, Wuzhang Shifang was probably not even worth a finger. Thinking of this, Wuzhang Shifang began to regret again. Why had he been such a jerk, so reserved, so indifferent? If he had accepted Guhan as a disciple, then his long-cherished wish of many years would have been realized now. Senior Wuzhang, 20 years have passed, but your body is still so handsome, Guhan said with a smile. Indeed, although they had been separated for 20 years, Wuzhang Shifang still looked the same as he did 20 years ago. He still maintained the appearance of a middle-aged man. Unlike Longsha Jendi, 20 years ago, Long Shijendi also looked like a middle-aged man in his prime, but 20 years later, he had become an old man. Now, he had ascended to become an immortal, and had disappeared with the passage of time. Just what kind of method did this Wuzhang Shifang use to be able to maintain his appearance and spirit without any change after 20 years? I am ashamed. When Wuzhang Shifang heard Guhan say this, his face stiffened, and at the same time, he showed an ashamed expression. He lowered his head and said, I am sorry to human beings, I am sorry to the human race. What do you mean? You, Wuzhang Shifang, are a senior of human beings. You have shed your blood for human beings, and you have made great achievements in war. Even if you hide here now, your blemishes do not obscure your brilliance. You don't have to be sorry to human beings. Although Guhan was praising Wuzhang Shifang, his tone was very calm. Fine, a straightforward person will not resort to insinuations. Since little friend Guhan and little friend Yi Fei are here, I have nothing to hide. The reason why I don't look old is not because I am good at taking care of myself, but because I am no longer a human being. Wuzhang Shifang sighed and said something that shocked Song Yifei to his core. Wuzhang Shifang actually said that he's no longer a human? What does that mean? Could it be that this Wuzhang Shifang is the same as my master? Song Yifei suddenly raised his head and looked at Wuzhang Shifang. Then, he looked at Guhan, who had a calm expression and finally understood something. Sigh, looks like Senior Wu Zhong has also reached this step. Guhan sighed. In fact, Guhan already knew what had happened to Wu Zhongsha the moment he laid eyes on him. This was because Wu Zhongsha was now like him and Mingyuan Jendi. His body had been contaminated by filth and he had become half Yuan Ku and half a human being. However, this Wuzhang Shifang could actually live peacefully with other human beings, which surprised Guhan quite a bit. This was because Guhan knew very well how terrifying filth was and how horribly it could corrode the will of human beings. Ji Yuhan relied on his willpower to resist the corruption of the impurities, and the Netheriris Sword Emperor relied on the black crystal to resist the corruption of the impurities. So what did Wu Zhongfang rely on to resist the impurities? Also, what had happened to this Wuzhang Shifang that made him fall into the same situation as him? Little friend Guhan knows what happened to my lower body. Wuzhang Shifang was also shocked by Guhan's words. From the meaning behind Guhan's words, it seemed like Guhan already knew what had happened to his body. Aren't you already corroded by filth? Guhan said faintly. You actually know. Wuzhang Shifang widened his eyes and exclaimed in admiration. Then, he helplessly withdrew his hand. Little friend Guhan, you are right. I have indeed been corroded by filth. I am now just a monster that is half human and half Yuan Ku. What exactly happened to your body? How did you end up like this? Guhan immediately asked. Little friend Guhan, since you know about my body's condition, you should also know that I will only be corroded by filth if I enter the main world through a dimensional rift in another dimension, right? Wuzhang Shifang said faintly. I already know about this. Guhan nodded and said, so, Senior Wuzhang, you mistakenly entered a dimensional world and were corroded by filth in order to return to the main world. Yes and no. Wuzhang Shifang nodded and then shook his head. I did enter a dimensional world, but I didn't enter it by mistake. I entered it on my own initiative. I took the initiative to become like this. Wuzhang Shifang said frankly. Wuzhang Shifang actually entered a dimensional world on his own initiative. Guhan raised his head in disbelief and looked at the frank Wuzhang Shifang. His heart surged with great confusion. Although Guhan's situation was the same as Wuzhang Shifang's, Guhan had been forced to become like this. He had been forced to enter a dimensional world because he had no other choice. This was the same as Mingyuan Jendi. Mingyuan Jendi had also been forced to enter a dimensional world because of the seamless corridor's destruction, becoming half human and half Yuan Ku. Guhan and Mingyuan Jendi had been forced to do this. If they had a choice, they would never have wanted to see this happen. However, Wuzhang Shifang was different. He had actually entered a dimensional world of his own accord. This meant that Wuzhang wanted to become half human and half Yuan Ku. Why did he do this? Why did Wuzhang Shifang do such a thing? Guhan felt that Wuzhang Shifang was in disbelief. He hoped to get an answer from Wu Zhang's mouth. I have a dream. Seeing Gu Han's puzzled gaze, Wu Zhang Shifang stood up from his seat. He raised his head 45 degrees upwards, staring at the distant, rather melancholy sunlight. Finally, he spoke in a voice that was filled with the vicissitudes of life. I was born into an unhappy family. My father was the last famed sword wielder of the Wu Zhang clan, while my mother was the last direct descendant of the Wu Zhang clan. The Wu Zhang clan is the imperial clan of the Yamato people, and it is the last clan in this world that maintains the traditions of the Yamato people while only intermarrying with members of the Yamato bloodline. In the beginning, there were over 100 clans like the Wu Zhang clan, clans that attempted to maintain the pure bloodline of the Yamato people. But as time went on and the world changed, no matter how great a tradition was, it was no longer able to resist fate. Those 100 clans either changed their beliefs or were completely destroyed by the tides of history. In the end, only the Wu Zhang clan was left. There were no other pure-blooded Yamato people who could intermarry with the Wu Zhang clan. Left with no other choice, in order to maintain the traditions of the Wu Zhang clan, the clan had no choice but to destroy human relations and choose to intermarry with members of the same surname. Just like my mother, she was a child born from a pair of siblings. Wu Zhang Shifang said calmly. Why do you want to maintain such a boring tradition? Hearing Wu Zhang Shifang's words, Song Ifei said angrily, Kanzu said long ago that from the moment of the apocalypse, there was no longer any distinction between races on Earth. All races are Earthlings, and all Earthlings are humans. We shouldn't continue to be bound by our bloodlines, because our bloodlines are inherently hostile to each other. We should merge all our bloodlines together and fight in the name of all humans. Why do you insist on doing such a boring thing, even going so far as to commit such heartless acts of incest? What a joke! Hearing Song Ifei's words, Wu Zhang Shifang's lips curled into a cold smile. That's just a huge joke. Perhaps Kanzu did have such an idea back then, but in reality, it was your Chinese bloodline, Chinese people, and Chinese culture that began to unscrupulously devour the bloodlines and culture of other races. Even the powerful Europeans were devoured by your Chinese people, completely losing their culture and traditions. Isn't this a matter of course? Song Ifei frowned and said, and please don't use the word devour. This is not devouring, but integration. It's the integration of all races. It's not one-sided devouring. Ha ha ha, Miss Song Ifei, are you lying with your eyes open, or are you lying with your eyes closed? Wu Zhang Shifang sneered a few times and said, if it's really integration, I'm willing to admit it. But in fact, almost all humans now call themselves Chinese. The name of Huaxia resounds throughout the earth, and everyone is proud of the Chinese bloodline in their bodies. However, our Yamato people have declined to the point where there are only a few poor kittens and puppies left. If we want to learn our own national language, we even have to go to the rescue protection class of non-Chinese material cultural heritage created by your Chinese people to learn. If our Yamato people want to learn from our Yamato people, they have to worship you Chinese people as their teachers. Isn't that the funniest lie in the world? Wu Zhang Shifang's words were so enlightening that Song Ifei couldn't refute him at the same time. She could only stand there in silence. In fact, even Gu Han couldn't refute Wu Zhang Shifang's words, because Wu Zhang Shifang was telling the truth. In history, it had always been the strong culture devouring the weak culture. There was no problem of ethnic integration at all. If ethnic and culture could really be integrated, why was it that after thousands of years, the Chinese people were still the Chinese people, while the Mongolians and the Manchus, who had once occupied China, had completely lost their ethnic culture and become a member of China? In the end, they could only become exhibits in the museum. Therefore, the fact was that the strong culture and ethnic group would devour the weak culture and ethnic group. In the end, all cultures and ethnic groups would be devoured by the strongest one, and the real unification of mankind would be realized. This was the historical necessity. And Gu Han believed that whether the Great Apocalypse happened or not, it would be the great Chinese people who would devour all cultures and ethnic groups in the end. Because only the culture of the Chinese people could be so broad-minded that it could accommodate and devour all cultures in the world. This was something that was destined the moment the culture of the Chinese people was created. Chapter 1536. Yi Fei, don't say any more. Senior Wuzhang is speaking the truth. Just let him continue. Guhan finally mediated. With Guhan's help, Wuzhang Shifu continued, actually, my mother's ancestors also knew that the trend of history was irresistible. Forcefully going against history and going against human ethics by intermarrying with people of the same surname would lead to endless trouble in the future. But my mother's ancestors didn't know that retribution would come so quickly. With the start of intermarrying with people of the same surname, it became extremely difficult to give birth. Even if a child was successfully born, the chances of the child becoming a child with dementia were too high for our family to bear. The Wuzhang family had never had a sword bearer. Originally, they could only barely keep the family fed and warm. But with the start of intermarrying with people of the same surname, there were no more sword bearers in our family. What was even more terrifying was that the children with dementia who were born had no ability to work. They could only be raised by the family and became a burden to the family. The family's assets were quickly consumed. By my mother's generation, there were only 3 sane people in the entire family. And these 3 sane people had to think of ways to support 18 children with dementia. This even included my mother's grandfather. Finally, when my mother was 14 years old, my mother's parents couldn't bear such a painful life anymore. After knocking my mother out and throwing her out, they set fire to the entire house. They burned themselves and the 18 children with dementia to death. Just like that, the Wuzhang family was completely annihilated. Only my mother was left. At that time, my mother was still underage and didn't have the ability to support herself. Moreover, she couldn't see a future, so she finally decided to enter a maid academy and sold herself to become an exclusive maid. She planned to live a life of relying on others and live out the rest of her life. So, when my mother graduated, she met my father, a noble sword-bearer. However, I will never voluntarily mention this guy's name in my life because he is already dead in my heart. At this point, Wuzhang Shifu's face suddenly revealed an expression of extreme anger. What surprised Guhan was that there was a hint of unconcealable fear in his furious expression. Wu Zhangshifang's father is. Guhan's heart skipped a beat. He immediately searched for Wu Zhangshifang's detailed information on his personal terminal. At the same time, he also found the information on Wu Zhangshifang's father. Based on the information, this father seemed to be a rather perfect person. He had a certain level of strength and was polite to others. He often participated in various charity groups and donated around 70% of his assets to improve the lives of ordinary people. In any case, from the information he had, he was a role model for humanity. It was hard to imagine that such a father would make Wuzhang Shifang so angry. Wuzhang Shifang continued to speak. My father is a bastard, a demon in human skin. He's completely different inside and outside the house. He's the most bastard in the world. He had chosen my mother only because he liked her patience. From the day my mother entered the door, he launched endless torture on my mother. Even when my mother was pregnant with me, he still didn't let my mother go. Even after I was born, he didn't let my childhood go. Guhan could hear the sound of Wuzhang Shifu's teeth grinding. I don't want to remember what my mother and I have been through for the rest of my life. You just need to apply all the cruelest things in the world to my mother and I. The only thing I can have and keep is this life. Later, even my mother, who was good at enduring and had the most excellent Yamato character, couldn't bear the torture of that bastard and ended her life with a bottle of poison. Before my mother died, I asked my mother why the 2 of us were treated so cruelly. So my mother told me that because the 2 of us have the blood of the Yamato race in our bodies, and in the eyes of that bastard, all non-Chinese bloodlines are the most lowly bloodlines in the world. That's why that bastard tortures us like this. In the end, my mother still left, but before she left me a chip. It was filled with all the information of the Yamato people that the Wuzhang family had kept for thousands of years. So from that moment on, I made up my mind to rebuild our Yamato people. In our Yamato people's homeland, we'll build a country that belongs to us, so that the Chinese can never bully our Yamato people again. Our Yamato people will become a real people again and stand tall on this land. Hearing this, Guhan and Song Ifei thought at the same time. Wu Zhang Shifang continued to speak. This must be the source of Wu Zhang Shifang's obsession. That bastard had many children, so he didn't like me at all. After my mother died, he chased me to live in the storeroom. I was clearly already 12 years old, but I was still wearing the clothes that my mother had personally sewn for me before she died 6 years ago. I was as humble as a slave in front of my brothers and sisters until one day, when that bastard returned home, he found that his home had been turned into a sea of fire. His 13 children had all turned into 13 charred corpses. My brothers and sisters are really pitiful. Never in their wildest dreams did they think that a lowly worm would dare to set fire to everyone, including himself. Wu Zhang Shifang's face began to show a sinister expression, and this expression also made Song Yifei feel a chill from the depths of his bones. This Wu Zhang Shifang was only 12 years old, and he had actually set fire to all his brothers and sisters. This kind of viciousness was something that Song Yifei could never have imagined. However, Song Yifei did not feel much pity for those who had died tragically. After all, from Wu Zhang Shifang's resentful tone, he could tell that Wu Zhang Shifang had suffered inhumane treatment during his childhood, and how his brothers and sisters had abused him. At first, I wanted to burn myself to death too. Wu Zhang Shifang seemed to have thought of something interesting, and suddenly smiled. But perhaps God wanted me to live. The storeroom I lived in actually had exceptionally good fireproofing properties. In the end, when the fire was finally extinguished, my 13 brothers and sisters were already dead, but I only suffered a little burn on my feet, and I was still alive and kicking. I guess that bastard must have known that the fire that burned all his children was set by me, and I was his most hated enemy. But he did not dare to tell the truth, and instead completely changed his attitude, and became extraordinarily nice to me. He cared about me every day without a break, and I actually became the happiest child in the world. Wu Zhang Shifang said, and suddenly his body began to tremble crazily. Ha ha ha, that bastard, because of excessive indulgence, he actually lost the ability to reproduce. I know that he went to see a doctor more than once, wanting to restore his ability to reproduce, and once he gave birth to any child, it would be the time of my death. But he was really useless, and he had already become a useless person. He only had one son, me, and if he didn't want to be completely cut off, he could only take good care of me, and love me like his own son, even though I was indeed his own son. Wu Zhang Shifang's laughter revealed how much sorrow was revealed, and perhaps only Wu Zhang Shifang himself knew clearly in his heart. Later, when I was tested to have the talent of a sword-bearer, he was even happier, and he could not bear to kill me, so he treated me even better. Especially when I successfully synchronized with the Shenming sword, he told me that I was the person he loved the most in his life, and my mother was also the person he loved the most in his life, and he would be proud of me for the rest of his life. Wu Zhang Shifang's mouth flashed a trace of a sinister smile. Originally, I did not want to kill him. Originally, I wanted to see that he gave me this body, and let him live peacefully until he grew old. But I did not think that he could be shameless to this extent. It was fine that he lied to me, but he actually went against his conscience and lied to my mother. I was completely furious, so I took him out to fight with me, and then deliberately entered the territory of a universe-level Yuan Ku. Then, I watched as he was eaten alive by a universe-level Yuan Ku. And before he died, he cried to me for help. Listening to his screams, I suddenly felt empty. I had already avenged my mother, but at the same time, I had also lost my future. I no longer knew what I should do next. At that time, I was muddle-headed, and my entire body was on the verge of collapse. I had to use the fastest speed to find a goal that I could fight for the rest of my life, or else I would lose the motivation to live and eventually become a rotten corpse. Fortunately, I finally found the goal I wanted, which was to take the lifelong goal of the Wu Zhang family as my own responsibility, to create a world that only belongs to the Yamato nation, and to let the Yamato nation once again stand up. Wu Zhang Shifang waved his fist and said passionately, from that day onwards, I was not called Zhang Shifang, I was called Wu Zhang Shifang. In the next few decades, I began to accumulate the power to offend people. On one hand, I worked for you Chinese, on the other hand, Hao Tianzhendi, and I acted as his most loyal lackey. On the other hand, I began to collect the scattered geniuses of the Yamato nation. As long as a genius with the blood of the Yamato nation passed the synchronization, I immediately took them in as a disciple and took care of them. At the same time, I instilled them with the glorious history of the Yamato nation. In the end, I established a medium-sized organization with hundreds of swordbearers, an organization that truly belongs to the Yamato nation, Wu Zhang Shifang said faintly. The organization that truly belongs to the Yamato nation was probably the swordbearers that stayed in Yamato City. Chapter 1537. So you faked your death and came here? Guhan asked with a frown after listening to Wu Zhang Shifang's narration. That's right. My original plan was to wait a little longer until the swordbearers I had trained had fully matured. It would be best if there was another sword immortal level cultivator among them. Only then would I activate my plan and bring my people to Japan to build Yamato City. Wu Zhang Shifang sighed and said, it's a pity that the plan couldn't keep up with the changes. I didn't expect that the 12 ancestors of sorcery would be released again. I thought that it was impossible for humans to defeat the 12 ancestors of sorcery again, so I left with my subordinates. On the surface, I said that I was going to fight the 12 Zhu Wu, but in reality, I was just bringing everyone to Japan. Actually, I had good intentions. If the 8 base cities had really perished, then this place of mine would be the last hope of humanity. In a way, I could be considered a hero and an extension of humanity. Wu Zhang Shifang looked at Guhan and said shamelessly, if humanity had really perished, then perhaps you would indeed be an extension of humanity. Guhan nodded, but his face revealed a disdainful expression. But you're wrong. Our 8 base cities have not perished, and the population of 200 million is still here. You are not an extension of humanity, but a traitor of humanity. Yes, I am indeed a traitor now. Wu Zhang Shifang said with a bitter smile. I originally thought that humanity was doomed, but I didn't expect it to survive in the end. Little friend Jiyu Han, it is truly a great fortune for our human race to have a hero like you. So, you don't hate me for ruining your plan to become an extension of humanity? Guhan said with a hint of playfulness. I am a Yamato, but I am also a human. No one can change this. You are a well-deserved hero for humanity to be able to preserve its strength. I express my sincere gratitude to you. After Wu Zhang Shifang finished speaking, he suddenly knelt in front of Guhan and kowtowed to Guhan to express his gratitude. Guhan snorted coldly. Although he was very disdainful of Wu Zhongsha's actions, Guhan could feel that Wu Zhongsha wasn't kneeling to curry favor with him. Instead, Wu Zhongsha was sincerely thanking him for saving humanity. Based on this point alone, Guhan had to admit that Wu Zhongsha wasn't beyond redemption. Then what do you plan to do next? Guhan didn't let Wu Zhang Shifang get up from the ground. He simply stood in front of Wu Zhang Shifang and asked. Of course, it is to take root in the land that belongs to our Yamato people, continue, and finally recreate another Yamato people. Wu Zhang Shifang didn't intend to stand up. He continued to kneel in front of Guhan and said, what a joke. Where do you think this is? How many people do you think you have? How many sword bearers do you think you have? How many sword ladies do you think you have? What right do you have to lead these humans to continue living? Will the Yuan Ku here treat you as nothing? Guhan asked 4 questions in a row, causing Wu Zhang Shifang to sweat profusely. This is our Yamato people's land. Wu Zhang Shifang gritted his teeth and said, as for the population, you already know that there are at least 100,000 humans in that dimensional rift. Furthermore, they are all pure Yamato people. As long as we can save all these people, our Yamato city will have the foundation to continue existing. As long as we have enough people, we can also have enough sword bearers. As for the sword ladies, you originally planned on waiting for the humans on the mainland to perish before going over to clean up the battlefield and pick up all the sword ladies we left behind, right? Guhan directly said what Wu Zhang Shifang wanted to say next. Wu Zhang Shifang didn't even have the courage to retort because that was the truth. Then how do you plan on dealing with the Yuan Ku here? Guhan continued asking. I don't plan on dealing with the Yuan Ku here. We can live in harmony. Wu Zhang Shifang said with his head lowered. Oh, Humans and the Yuan Ku have been fighting for thousands of years. What right do you have to say that you can live in harmony with the Yuan Ku? Gu Han asked curiously. Sorry, I can't say. Wu Zhang Shifang, who had been speaking freely, suddenly shut his mouth and was unwilling to answer Gu Han's question. You have to answer. Gu Han didn't say much. He pulled out his Shenyuan sword and pressed it against Wu Zhang Shifang's head. Feeling the slight coolness coming from the Shenyuan sword, Wu Zhang Shifang couldn't help but swallow a few mouthfuls of saliva. Wu Zhang Shifang, who had been paying close attention to the situation on the mainland, already knew Gu Han's strength very well. He knew that Gu Han had ascended to the throne and become an Emperor Sword-level sword wielder. Moreover, the synchronized Emperor Sword-level sword mistress was unprecedented since ancient times. The Shenyuan sword, known as the Emperor of Emperor Sword-level sword mistresses, was fully deserving of being the number one Emperor Sword-level sword mistress. At the same time, Gu Han also proved that he was also deserving of being the number one Emperor Sword-level expert by killing Ying Zheng and 12 Zhu Wu. Perhaps even Kun Zhu back then couldn't reach Gu Han's current achievements. It could be said that Wu Zhang Shifang had no chance of winning against Gu Han. Otherwise, Wu Zhang Shifang wouldn't have told Gu Han all the secrets he had hidden in his heart and the painful experiences he had gone through in his childhood. This was because Wu Zhang Shifang knew that only by telling the truth to Gu Han might spare his life. Only then would he be able to protect himself. The Yamato city that Wu Zhang Shifang had painstakingly built was the dream that Wu Zhang Shifang had worked hard for his entire life. Gu Han was also very clear about Wu Zhang Shifang's thoughts. At the same time, it was precisely because of this that Gu Han felt very strange. Wu Zhang Shifang was obviously going to tell everything he knew, but why was he clenching his teeth on this issue and unwilling to speak no matter what? Even a fool would know that there must be a bigger secret behind Wu Zhang Shifang's reluctance to speak. Gu Han was going to force this secret out no matter what. I promised that person that I would not tell the truth no matter what. I beg you, Your Majesty Hong Jun, please don't force me. Wu Zhang Shifang was almost begging Gu Han. According to the database of our sword committee, this senior Wu Zhang Shifang should be dead, right? Gu Han suddenly looked at Song Ifei and asked with a smile. Isn't that nonsense? Song Ifei rolled his eyes at Gu Han. Then all the sword bearers here should be dead, right? Gu Han asked again. Let me see. Well, they all died on the battlefield 5 years ago. Their bodies are all gone. They died quite cleanly. Song Ifei seemed to understand something and said with a smile. You. Hongjun Jendi, you. Of course, Wu Zhang Shifang also understood Gu Han's intention at this time. He, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly wanted to stand up and argue with Gu Han. However, the Shen Yuan sword directly hit Wu Zhang Shifang's shoulder. Wu Zhang Shifang was instantly suppressed and continued to kneel in front of Gu Han. He could not even move a centimeter. And the aborigines here, the sword committee doesn't know that they exist at all. They are also dead, right? Gu Han walked around Wu Zhang Shifang's neck with the Shen Yuan sword, and at the same time, said the most frightening sentence to Wu Zhang Shifang, even if I kill them all, no one will come to trouble me, right? I am still the hero and savior of mankind, right? You. Shameless. You. You don't deserve to be the savior of mankind. Wu Zhang Shifang was extremely sad and angry. He never expected that the savior of mankind could threaten him with so many human lives. Was he really the savior of mankind? Yes, I am the savior of mankind. Ji Yu Han kicked Wu Zhongsha's stomach, sending Wu Zhongsha, who was once his senior, who Ji Yu Han had to kneel on the ground and beg to become his disciple, flying out with a single kick. Wu Zhongsha crashed heavily into the wall. What was surprising was that even though the force of the impact was extremely heavy, the wall, which was made of wood and should have been extremely fragile, did not move at all. It did not even shake a little. This situation had already violated the basic laws of physics. It could be seen how amazing Gu Han's control of power was. Wu Zhang Shifang, let me tell you, even if there are only 2 human beings left in my hands, a man and a woman, I will still be the savior of mankind. If it weren't for me, all the humans would have died. There wouldn't be a single survivor. That guy, Sect Master Tongtian, wants to destroy the entire origin world and countless subworlds. No one can survive, including your Yamato city. So tell me everything you know. Otherwise, before sect leader Tongtian takes action, I will destroy your Yamato city first. I'm not a stubborn and principled saint. I can do anything. As long as I can save mankind, I will always have a clear conscience. Guhan walked up to Wuzhang Shifang and said coldly, leaving no room for refusal. And when Wuzhang Shifang saw Ji Yuhan's cold eyes, he knew that the other party was telling the truth. If he continued to hide it, the entire Yamato city, as well as the thousands of people in the city, would be destroyed. Moreover, even if Wuzhang Shifang was reluctant, he had to admit that only Guhan could save the world. I'll tell you. Wuzhang Shifang let out a long sigh and finally opened his mouth. Chapter 1538. It all started when I killed that old B*****. I thought my actions were flawless, but I didn't expect a woman to be standing in the void. She saw me leave my father in the lurch, Wuzhang Shifang said with his head lowered. This woman told me that she knew what I was thinking and what I wanted. She could help me keep this secret and even help me realize my dream. As long as I listened to her and joined her organization, it would be enough, Wuzhang Shifang said. A woman? What kind of woman is she? Guhan asked. An extremely powerful woman. At this point, Wuzhang Shifang couldn't help but shiver. She's very strong, terrifyingly strong. The void is like a toy in front of her. She can control it at will. She can even open a void gate directly to the moon. She only used one look to kill that universe-level Yuan Ku. That was a universe-level Yuan Ku. Even an Emperor Sword wielder would have to fight a powerful opponent for more than 10 minutes. Just like that, he was killed by her gaze. That's not the scariest thing. The scariest thing is that she holds the secrets of life and death. Wuzhang Shifang trembled even more violently. That bastard, I clearly saw him being eaten by Yuenko with my own eyes. Then, that woman cut open Yuenko's stomach and took out my father, who only had half a head left. In front of me, he resurrected that half a head into a complete body. He even resurrected him for real, giving that bastard new life and resurrecting him for real. I'm 100% sure that it was the original B** that was resurrected. I'll never forget the look of hatred in his eyes. As Wuzhang Shifang spoke, he couldn't help but hug his head. His words were filled with boundless fear. You're saying that woman only used half a head to resurrect your father? Ji Yuhan grabbed Wuzhang Shifang's collar and asked. Wuzhang Shifang nodded his head vigorously to show that he was telling the truth. Guhan, isn't this your ability? Song Ifei was also shocked. He couldn't help but look at Guhan. Song Ifei naturally recalled what happened a few months ago. There was also only half a head left, and the owner of this head had been dead for 4 years. However, such a head had been resurrected by Guhan in an unbelievable way, which certainly reminded Song Ifei of the man beside him. That woman is not me, Guhan said with some annoyance. It's not difficult. As long as you master the ability to split consciousness fragments, you can do it. For example, sect leader Tongtian has already stood at the top of the sages and even surpassed the sages' abilities. He can also do this kind of thing. Moreover, he can do it faster, better, and more perfectly than me. This woman may be a doppelganger of sect leader Tongtian, but according to him, this incident happened at least 30 years ago. At that time, Master was still alive, so sect leader Tongtian shouldn't have been resurrected. Song Ifei said puzzledly. Right, Master once said that when the seamless corridor exploded, that was actually when the Grandmaster Tongtian escaped. Perhaps the Grandmaster Tongtian had already been resurrected, but he had been hiding in this world the entire time. Only when he had more or less recovered did he go to Master's place to retrieve the black crystal. Song Ifei began to let his imagination run wild as he began to analyze the situation. However, he didn't notice that Ji Yuhan's face had become incomparably ugly. Enough! To Song Ifei's surprise, Guhan suddenly roared at him. Song Ifei was stunned by the roar, and tears of grievance flowed out of the corners of his eyes. However, He didn't dare to say anything more and could only shut his mouth obediently. Go on, Gu Han said to Wuzhang Shifang. At that time, I knew that I was no match for that woman, no matter what, but I still chose to refuse. I said that I would never do anything that would betray human beings. Even if she could expose my behavior, I would commit suicide on the spot, and I would never be forced by her. Wuzhang Shifang looked at Gu Han and Song Yifei curiously. He didn't know what had happened between them, but he still answered. That woman told me that she didn't want me to do anything that would betray human beings. She just wanted me to join an organization and become a member of that organization. This organization would take the initiative to support the growth of its members, so that they could smoothly advance to the peak of human beings. The price was that they had to carry out the task given by the organization, but the members could judge for themselves whether this task was a betrayal of human beings. If it was, the members of the organization had the right to refuse. If it wasn't, the presiding member had to carry out the task. I hesitated, not knowing whether I should join the organization or not, so the woman directly took me to the organization's headquarters and let me meet some other members in this headquarters. Finally, I made up my mind to join the organization. Wuzhang Shifang said in a deep voice. Don't tell me first. Let me guess who the members of this organization are. Wuzhang Shifang originally wanted to say the members of the organization directly, but Gu Han waved his hand and said, I'm not sure about others, but there must be either Longsha Jendi or Haotian Jendi in this organization, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have joined the organization so easily. Your Majesty Hongjun, you are really full of wisdom. Wuzhang Shifang smiled bitterly. But you guessed wrong. There was not only one of these two, but both Jendi were in this organization. But at that time, Longsha Jendi was just Longsha Jendi, and the other one who appeared there was Ku Shui Jendi, who ascended to immortality 27 years ago. Both he and Haotian Jendi were members of this organization. Really? Hearing Wuzhang Shifang's words, Gu Han didn't seem to have any reaction on the surface, but in fact, he was shocked. Both Jendi, who were regarded as the pillars of human beings, were members of this organization. It could be said that the power of this organization had already grasped the high-end power of the entire human race. It would not be a problem for this organization to directly change its name to the Sword Committee headquarters. What was the fundamental meaning of such an organization's existence? It was because I saw His Majesty Ku Shui Jendi and His Majesty Haotian Jendi that I joined this organization without hesitation. I felt that since this organization had included all the high-level human beings, it was actually equivalent to controlling all the power of human beings. If such an organization wanted to destroy human beings, it would be easier than anything else. What was the need for me to resist? Wuzhang Shifang recalled. After joining this organization for a long time, I discovered that the organization seemed to only select human elites to invite, and the humans who were invited to join the organization were at least spirit sword-bearers. 60% of the human immortal sword-bearers were also members of this organization. By the way, Miss Song Yifei, your teacher, Sword Immortal Baiju Wudao, is also a member of this organization, and he is much older than me. Wuzhang Shifang suddenly looked at Song Yifei and said. Song Yifei had a blank expression on her face. In fact, Song Yifei did not have deep feelings for Wu Dao. After all, it had only been a few days since they became master and disciple, and Wu Dao had already sacrificed his life for human beings. However, there was no doubt that Wu Dao was a very important existence in Song Yifei's life. Song Yifei would never forget him for the rest of her life. On the anniversary of Wu Dao's death, Song Yifei would also hold a memorial ceremony for her master. Song Yifei still had some feelings for Wu Dao. Later, I received several missions issued by the organization one after another. These missions gave me a coordinate and asked me to go to Fusang Island to find something. Because this mission did not cause any harm to human beings, and instead could kill Yuan Ku, I went, Wuzhang Shifang said. This is the reason why you often went to Fusang Island when you were young. Gu Han revealed a look of sudden realization. No wonder in the official records, Wuzhang Shifang went to Fusang Island every day when he was young. Most of his reputation was established on Fusang Island. In the beginning, Gu Han thought that Wuzhang Shifang was doing this to get closer to his homeworld. He never expected it to be the organization's mission. I came to Fusang Island more than 10 times and experienced countless failures. I finally succeeded on my last attempt. I successfully found a cave and dug in the cave according to the directions given by the organization for 3 months. Finally, I dug out a secret passageway. Through this secret passageway, I found a brand new dimensional rift, which is the world filled with demons that you know of. After a simple investigation of that world and seeing the hundreds of thousands of pure-blooded Yamato humans, my heart began to stir because at that moment, I seemed to see the hope of rebuilding the Yamato race. In the end, when I completed the mission and returned to the organization, that woman found me again. She told me that there were 2 choices in front of me. One was to quit the organization and have nothing to do with it from now on. The secret passageway would also be taken over by the organization, and I was not allowed to go near that secret passageway. The second was to follow the organization's instructions and go to another dimensional world. Then, I became a half-human and half-human being, half-Yuan Ku. The organization would help me manage the relationship with the Fusang divine system, so that Yuan Ku of the Fusang divine system would not interfere with my construction of the city on Fusang Island. They would maintain peaceful coexistence with me and acquiesce to the existence of a human city on Fusang Island. Wuzhang Shifang suddenly let out a long sigh. So, 6 years ago, I went to another dimensional world and became what I am now. Because of the filth in my body, I could no longer enter the dimensional barrier. In addition, 12 Zuwu happened to appear at that time, so I simply chose to fake my death and build this small Yamato city. Chapter 1539. At this moment, the mysteries of Wushang Shifang were almost solved. Many strange things about Wushang Shifang had been explained, such as his relationship with Yuan Ku and his relationship with the alternate space. All these questions had been answered. But then, a new mystery appeared, and that was, what was the truth behind the mysterious organization that was hiding behind Wushang Shifang? In fact, there was no need for Wushang Shifang to take the initiative to speak. In fact, Guhan had already been aware of this organization. He had long felt that there had always been a vague fog behind the high-level human leaders, which he could not see clearly. However, Guhan did not expect that this layer of fog would be so thick that it had involved most of the high-level human leaders. However, after knowing this, Guhan did not seem too frightened. Instead, he became a little calmer. The reason was very simple. If this organization really wanted to harm mankind, it would be impossible for such a large proportion of the high-level human leaders to join this organization. The reason was very simple. Take a small country in the Middle East as an example. If this small country was compared to mankind, and the United States was compared to the dark forces, then if the United States had already controlled more than 60% of the high-level leaders of this small country, including the president and prime minister of this small country, and made them his people, would he still need to spend so much effort to attack this small country? Directly ordering the higher-ups under his control to make this small country self-destruct. This was not a difficult thing to do. The higher-ups only needed to make a few wrong decisions or choose to stand by and do nothing at the crucial moment. Then, the humans would have perished countless times in the history of more than 1,000 years. Therefore, Guhan believed that the organization should not have too much malice toward mankind. At least before the Tongtian sect was completely resurrected, this organization did not intend to do anything to destroy mankind. What really worried Guhan about this organization was their relationship with the Tongtian sect. It would naturally be best if this organization had nothing to do with the Tongtian sect. However, if this organization was actually a foreshadowing left by the Tongtian sect, then as mentioned before, this organization might be harmless to mankind before the Tongtian sect was resurrected. However, after the Tongtian sect was completely resurrected, this organization was likely to become the best means for the Tongtian sect to destroy mankind. Is this organization really related to the sect leader of Tongtian? Although Guhan did not want to admit it, he felt that this organization was most likely related to Tongtian. The most obvious evidence was the consciousness fragment left by sect leader Tongtian in the cave. According to Wu Zhongsha Fang, this cave did not exist in the first place. It was a cave that Wu Zhongsha Fang had dug out based on his own exploration. Finally, he had passed through this cave to reach the alternate dimension. Naturally, it was impossible for Zhongsha Fang to achieve this with his own abilities. Only someone who was incomparably familiar with the alternate dimension could dig a cave from the outside that led directly to the alternate dimension. In that case, there was no doubt that the person who gave orders behind the scenes was someone who had a deep understanding of the alternate dimension. In fact, he was the one who created this alternate dimension back then. The consciousness fragment obviously appeared there after the cave was dug. In other words, the Tongtian sect had come here after the cave was dug, which was why he had left his consciousness fragment at the entrance. Although it was possible that the Tongtian sect had found this place based on his memory of the alternate dimension without knowing it beforehand, there was no doubt that the Tongtian sect had already known everything here. At the thought of this, Guhan felt that he could not let Wu Zhongsha Fang go on like this anymore. He helped Wu Zhongsha Fang up from the ground and looked at him seriously. "It's very dangerous here. You can't stay here anymore. I can forgive your betrayal on behalf of mankind. Take the people here back to Yangjing City. I promise that no one will make things difficult for you. Everyone can enjoy the same treatment, and there will never be any discrimination. Go back." Wu Zhongsha Fang was stunned for a moment. He took a deep look at Guhan. "I'm not human anymore. Can I still go back?" "Of course you can," Guhan said with certainty. "As long as your heart is with us humans, you are one of us. We will not make the same mistake as Mingyuan Jendi. You can believe me. I promise with my integrity. Go back." Wu Zhongsha Fang's eyes revealed a blank expression. Obviously, he began to feel conflicted. After a long silence, Wu Zhongsha Fang finally shook his head firmly. "Hongjun Jendi, you don't have to say any more. This is my lifelong dream. Even if my body turns into ashes, I will never leave Yamato City that belongs to me." "Really?" Guhan took a deep look at Wu Zhongsha Fang. He knew that there was no need to persuade him anymore. Wu Zhongsha Fang would not change his mind just because of a few words. "What about these children? And these aborigines?" Guhan looked at the aborigines who were playing happily outside the door. "What kind of ending do you want to give them? Don't tell me you want to forcibly place your will on these innocent people. It is very safe here." Wu Zhongsha Fang gritted his teeth. "I can give them a safe world. They are also the cornerstone of the future of Yamato City. I can guarantee their safety." "What a joke." Guhan began to laugh coldly. "I can kill all the humans here with one sword. You don't even have the ability to resist me. Do you really have the cheek to say that you can give them a safe world?" Guhan Fang's words made Wu Zhongsha Fang speechless. This was the truth. Faced with the incomparably powerful Guhan, Wu Zhongsha Fang had no choice but to kneel and beg for mercy. Otherwise, the entire Yamato City would be destroyed. "As long as your majesty doesn't do anything, you..." Wu Zhongsha Fang still wanted to argue. "So what if I don't do anything?" Guhan continued to expose Wu Zhongsha Fang's ridiculous delusion. "You are just an immortal sword-level swordsman. The strongest among the rest is just a famed sword-level swordsman. The Fuso Divine Branch's Yuenko can exterminate your small city more than 100 times. Why are you giving them safety? This is what the organization has promised me." Wu Zhongsha Fang raised his head abruptly and said, "Moreover, in the past 6 years, just like what the organization said, Yamato City has been very peaceful and safe. Not a single Yuenko has come to trouble us. I've even communicated with some of the Yuenko's higher-ups, and they all promised me that they're willing to accept our Yamato City. Let's not talk about the effectiveness of the organization's promise. Let me tell you, this organization won't live for long. I will not allow such a lawless organization to exist behind the human race. I will crush this organization completely. Since his name has never appeared in human history, then don't even think about appearing in the future. He will not exist." Ji Yuhan said coldly. Wu Zhongsha Fang had to believe Guhan's words. The organization had always been very mysterious. But except for that woman, almost all the members of the organization were humans themselves. Now that the human race had been controlled by Guhan, Guhan's disciple, and his woman, The organization's power had been wiped out. The only one left was probably that mysterious woman. But Wu Zhongshifang did not think that woman was a match for Gu Han. This was because Wu Zhongshifang, Long Shi, and all the other senior members of the organization had looked for that woman together and sincerely begged her to help the human race and kill 12 Zhu Wu. But that woman refused without hesitation and told them very clearly that 12 Zhu Wu was very powerful. She was not a match for 12 Zhu Wu and would not seek her own death. Now that 12 Zhu Wu had died in the hands of Gu Han, didn't this mean that Gu Han was stronger than that woman? Therefore, in the face of Gu Han's powerful suppression, Wu Zhongshifang felt that this time, the organization was likely to usher in a real doomsday. That woman would eventually die under Gu Han's strangulation. Senior Wu Zhongshifang, I will call you senior for the last time. Don't be stubborn. Your Yamato city can't be rebuilt, and your Yamato people will eventually disappear in the long river of history and become one with all the human race. Don't be stubborn. Gu Han advised for the last time. Let them make their own decision. Wu Zhongshifang hesitated for a long time, and finally sighed. I will summon everyone and tell them what you said. I will not stop those who are willing to go back to Yangjing City with you. But for those who are unwilling, I hope that your Majesty can respect their decision. After all, a melon that is forcibly taken will not be sweet. Good. Since they are willing to court death, I will not stop them. Gu Han nodded. Half an hour later, Wu Zhongshifang rang the bell to summon everyone, and the 121 sword-bearers and 3,624 indigenous people of Yamato City gathered in the center of the city square. In front of everyone, Wu Zhongshifang directly introduced Gu Han's identity. When they heard that Gu Han was the famous Hongjun Jendi who killed 12 Zhu Wu, the indigenous people did not have any reaction, but all the sword-bearers were shocked. Although they were hiding on Fusang Island, they were all sword-bearers who had spent their childhood in human-based cities. They had experienced the tragic period when the 12 ancestors of sorcery had beaten up the humans. When they found out that a human could kill the 12 ancestors of sorcery on his own, it was imaginable how shocked they were. Chapter 1540. Greetings, Your Majesty Hongjun. After the excitement, everyone remembered that Gu Han had another identity, and that was the human Jendi. So all the sword-bearers knelt on the ground one after another and bowed respectfully to Gu Han. Only Amakusa Ichiro remained motionless. It was not that he did not respect the cold, but he had fallen into a state of dizziness. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that the person who saved him and the others from the alternate dimension and fought alongside him at the same time was one of the strongest in human history. This sudden news completely shattered Ichiro Amakusa's rationality, and he felt dizzy all over. His Majesty Hongjun came this time to persuade us to go back. Wu Zhongshifang did not play dumb with his men and directly stated Gu Han's purpose. His Majesty Hongjun said that it is impossible to build our Yamato city, and we will only wait for death if we stay here. I thought about it for a long time, and I think what His Majesty said does make sense. If we stay here, there is a great chance that we will be buried in this land. I don't want everyone to become a victim of my personal obsession. After His Majesty's persuasion, I decided to give everyone a chance to choose. Those who are willing to return to Yangjing City and reintegrate into the human family can leave with His Majesty. With His Majesty's protection, I believe all of you can reach Yangjing City safely. Wu Zhongshifang said indifferently. As soon as Wu Zhongshifang finished speaking, all the sword-bearers broke into an uproar. In fact, there was no need for Wu Zhongshifang to admit it. All the sword-bearers present knew in their hearts that it was difficult for this weak Yamato city to survive. Their dream of rebuilding the Yamato people had less than 20% chance of coming true. It was just that because of Wu Zhongshifang's brainwashing and training, as well as his betrayal of human beings, these sword-bearers had no choice but to stay in Yamato City and take a gamble. But now there was a choice. Hongjun Jendi appeared in front of everyone in person and promised that Yangjing City would not care about this betrayal. This was probably the only chance for them to return to the relatively safe human family. Everyone knew that this was a decision related to their lives. However, when he thought about his dream and the 6 years he had worked hard for, his desire to leave became much dimmer. Therefore, the situation fell into a stalemate. Lord Wuzhang Shifang, what about you? Would you like to leave with us? Suddenly, someone asked Wuzhang Shifang in a loud voice. I won't go. Wuzhang Shifang lightly said, this is my dream, this is my burial place, I will never leave this place. Then I won't leave either. I'm not leaving either. We will accompany you. Wuzhang Shifang's prestige in this city was really unparalleled. Therefore, after Wuzhang Shifang expressed his position, most of the sword-bearers shouted one after another, saying that they would live and die with Wuzhang Shifang, advance and retreat together, and never separate. Then, those who want to leave, please come forward. When Wuzhang Shifang saw everyone shouting his name, he was so excited that his eyes were full of tears, and he choked with sobs as he spoke to his men. Seeing this scene, Guhan knew that he was going to lose this time. Sure enough, after Wuzhang Shifang shed tears, the scene became even more excited. There was not even a sword-bearer who stood up and was ready to leave. I will stay here tonight. That's it. Those who want to stay here, stay in your residence tonight and are not allowed to go out. If anyone wants to leave with me, gather in this square in the early hours of the morning. I will take all of you with me. In the face of this excited scene, which was shouting Wuzhang Shifang's name, Guhan said calmly in a loud voice that suppressed all the people present. What a vicious move. Wu Zhongshifang's eyes widened as he stared at Ji Yuhan. Wu Zhongshifang had to admit that Ji Yuhan's words were too poisonous. Humans were herd animals and were easily affected by collective emotions. Even elite humans like the sword-bearers were no exception. Even if there were sword-bearers who were clear-headed in the crowd, due to the current situation, even if they wanted to leave with Guhan, they didn't have the courage to take the initiative to stand up. And Guhan's last sentence had the effect of taking drastic measures. There was still more than half a day before 12 a.m., which was enough time for people to calm down. Then, those sword-bearers who had calmed down could take advantage of the dark and windy night, as well as the restriction of those who wanted to stay here, to let go of all the restrictions and leave with Guhan. That was why Wuzhang Shifang said that Guhan's move was extremely vicious, completely destroying the collective emotions that Wuzhang Shifang had worked so hard to mobilize. In fact, that night, many people could hear hurried footsteps coming from outside the room. Obviously, some people were planning to leave here. Some of the sword-bearers who wanted to stay in Yamato City wanted to go out and stop the others from leaving. However, as soon as they got close to their doors, they discovered that there was a line of small words carved on their doors using sword chi. Once this door is opened, you must leave. The meaning of this sentence was very simple. As long as anyone dared to open this door, it meant that they wanted to leave Yamato City and Wuzhang Shifang, and then Guhan would forcibly take them away, never giving them any room to choose. Facing such a situation, of course, those sword-bearers who really wanted to stay here didn't dare to open their door again. They could only wait in torment until dawn before silently opening their door. How is it? After dawn, Wuzhang Shifang had been sitting in his room, not even going out, just waiting for his subordinate to report. His Majesty Hongjun has left. The person who reported to Wuzhang Shifang was none other than Amakusa Ichiro. I know he has left, but I'm asking, how many people left with him? Wuzhang Shifang said with a bitter smile. Amakusa Ichiro hesitated for a while, probably thinking that his concealment was not very useful, and Wuzhang Shifang would know the real number sooner or later, so in the end, he nodded and said, out of 121 brothers, 38 people stay. That means that 2/3 of the people have left. Wuzhang Shifang's body could not help but tremble. He had already guessed that many people would choose to leave. But he did not expect that there would be so many people who chose to leave. This was a direct force that he had cultivated for only 20 to 30 years, and they were all sword-bearers that he had personally trained. But now, 2/3 of them actually chose to leave. Originally, Wuzhang Shifang thought that the number 38 should only be the number of people who left. Sir, do you want me to chase after them? Seeing Wuzhang Shifang's pale face, Amakusa Ichiro immediately said, they just left not long ago, if we chase after them now, we should still be able to catch up. What a joke, with His Majesty Hongjun escorting them personally, even I can't catch up, how can you catch up? Wu Zhang Shifang glared at Amakusa Ichiro, then waved his hand helplessly and said, "Forget it, a melon forcibly picked won't be sweet, let them go. By the way, those natives, are they still here?" Wu Zhang Shifang suddenly asked nervously. "Not yet, after all, the natives do not understand Huaxia, so they do not know that they can leave at night. I took a look just now, most of the natives are still here, only a small number of them disappeared, probably when they went to the toilet at night. Hongjun Jendi took them away, thinking that they wanted to leave. Now, at least 90% of the natives are still here with us. Then that's enough." Wu Zhang Shifang took a deep breath, then clenched his fists tightly and said, "As long as we have these 38 children who are of the same mind as me, and the blood that truly belongs to our Yamato people will definitely be reborn," Wu Zhang Shifang said with determination. "Okay, I will send you here, we can go our separate ways." A few hours later, on the beach of Japan, Guhan looked at the sword-bearers behind him, who were anxious but full of hope for a new life, and then said to Song Ifei, who was next to him, "Where are you going?" Song Ifei was startled by Guhan's words. Didn't they agree to send these sword-bearers back to Yangjing City together? Why did they have to separate again? "Did you forget that my Qingpin sword is still in that strange space? I have to bring her back before I can leave here." Guhan said with a smile, "Take them back to Yangjing City first. When I get the Qingpin sword back, I will also return to Yangjing City." "You are talking nonsense." Hearing Guhan's relaxed words, Song Ifei raised his head angrily and looked at Guhan with a worried face. "If you only want to get the Qingpin sword back, you could have gotten it when you set off. Why did you have to come to this remote border to split yourself? You don't just want to get the Qingpin sword back, you must know something, so you sent me away to enter that strange space." "Why did you have to send me away?" "I get it, it must be because it is very dangerous there, and you are afraid that I will be hurt, so you forced me to leave. Although the monsters there are very strong, none of them is a match for you. I will not be in danger with your protection, but you still sent me away. However, you still wanted to send me away. This means that the danger there is definitely not as simple as a few monsters. There must be an even greater danger there. It's sect leader Tongtian. It must be sect leader Tongtian. You must know that sect leader Tongtian is going back soon, so you're here to ambush him. You want to assassinate." Song Ifei was so smart that she could guess so many things in one breath. Unfortunately, she could not finish her words. Because Guhan put Song Ifei and all the people here into the void, and at the same time, completely sealed the nearby void, so that Song Ifei could not come out. "Ifei, if you really want to help me, then send these people back. Otherwise, on the battlefield, I have to take care of your safety. You are not a helper to me, but a burden. Do you understand?" Guhan's voice sounded in the void. After Song Ifei buried her head and cried for a long time, she stood up and said to the others in a hoarse voice, "Let's go, I will send you back." Chapter 1541. Qingpin, how's the situation here? How was your day? When Qingpin was lying on the bed in a daze, a familiar voice suddenly sounded beside him. "Guhan." Qingpin immediately jumped up from the bed excitedly, only to find that a monster with a tiger's head and a snake's tail had appeared in his room. "Guhan? How did you become like this?" Seeing Guhan's new appearance, Qingpin said with some surprise. "If I didn't become like this, how could I approach here quietly?" Guhan hit Qingpin's little head, then smiled and said, "Tell me, what happened here during the day I was away?" "It was lively when you were away." Qingpin pouted and said with a smile, "First, the two junior sisters had a big fight. They seemed to blame each other for not doing their best. Then, they scolded all the other monsters. In addition, all the humans in the alternate dimension seemed to have been gathered by them. I haven't seen them for several hours. They are gathering humans. What do these monsters want? Don't tell me they want to take revenge on these human aborigines," Guhan said with some worry. If this was the case, then Guhan was in some trouble again. "Guhan, should we save them?" Qingpin asked with some excitement and curiosity. "Forget it." Guhan pondered for a long time, and finally shook his head and said, "If they die, they die. This is their fate. Why? With your strength, Guhan, you can obviously save them. Qingpin asked puzzledly. Because I have a more important task to do. Guhan sighed, then touched Qingpin's little head, and finally said, Qingpin, if Guhan wanted to kill your old master, what would you do? What old master? Qingpin looked at Guhan innocently and said, Qingpin has only one master since the beginning. Old master is the master of that bad woman, but he has never been the master of Qingpin. Qingpin has only one master, Guhan, good treasure. Guhan excitedly held Qingpin in his arms. If it weren't for the fact that his head was inconvenient, Guhan would definitely give Qingpin a good kiss. Good treasure. I've already calculated that sect leader Tongtian will definitely return to this alternate space in 1 or 2 months at the earliest. The moment he returns will be the moment of his death. I, your master, will do everything in my power to kill this culprit here and completely end the miserable suffering of our human race for thousands of years, Guhan said as he clenched his fists. Lord Qingping, it's time. You can come out and meet everyone. Not long after, Goddess Incongruence walked into Qingpin's room, and a strange expression immediately appeared on her face. Because Qingpin was not the only one in Qingpin's room at this time, but there was also a little monster here. This little monster was extremely weak at first glance. It was almost the weakest monster in the entire alternate space. Nobody knew which monster this newborn was, but it actually appeared in Qingping's room. This little monster was currently tossing the esteemed Lord Qingping into the air like a rag doll, and then catching it in her hands. Qingping was even more excited as she shouted, "Raise it up high, throw it up high," and the like. Which brat is so daring to disturb Lord Qingping's rest? Who gave you the courage to appear here? Get out of here, and immediately go to the punishment hall to receive 30 strikes of the amethyst magic rod. Goddess Incongruence said coldly. The amethyst magic rod was a rod made of amethyst wood. At the same time, it was also imbued with the spells of the Jie school. The pain caused by hitting the monster's body was 100 times stronger than that of an ordinary wooden rod. The power of the amethyst wood could also cause some damage to the soul. It was one of the punishments that everyone feared. After these 30 strikes, this little monster would probably lose half of its life. Lord Qingpin, save me, please, save me. This little monster was so frightened that he immediately knelt in front of Qingping and begged for mercy. Qingping immediately said, "This has nothing to do with him. I want him to play with me, so he can stay by my side. Lord Qingping, nothing can be accomplished without rules. If you want to find someone to play with you, then I'll find you someone who looks more handsome. They're much stronger than this little monster. This needs to be taught a lesson," Goddess Incongruence said with flames in her eyes, as if she had to teach this little monster a lesson. "No, I want him to play with me. I don't want anyone else." Qingpin stomped her cute little feet and said to Goddess Incongruence with a pout, "I want him. You won't even give me face. Why don't you drag me and him to beat the rod together?" "I don't dare, I don't dare." Goddess Incongruence shook her head when she heard Qingpin say that. Qingping was the sword of the sect leader of heaven. It represented the will of the sect leader of heaven. It was like an imperial sword, so how could Goddess Incongruence dare to beat Qingping? Moreover, it was almost certain that her master, the sect leader of heaven, had been resurrected, and the other sages were all dead. The sect leader of heaven was the only sage left in the world. The future ownership of the world would definitely belong to the sect leader of heaven. Under such circumstances, how could Goddess Incongruence dare to offend Qingping? In the end, she could only give in, and the little monster successfully escaped. "Why did you come to me? Didn't we agree not to bother me unless there's something else?" Qingping was relieved when she saw Goddess Incongruence backing down. At the same time, she asked in dissatisfaction. "It's like this," Goddess Incongruence explained. The Incongruence Divine Mother explained, "Didn't we agree yesterday? I hope that Lady Qingping can go up to the rostrum today and tell us about the situation in the outside world. Tell us about the situation outside and which factions are in control. Jie school has been trapped in this small place for hundreds of thousands of years. We still know nothing about the outside world. Everyone is very curious. Ah, so troublesome." Qingping said tiredly when she heard that she was invited to talk about the outside world. However, she could only pinch her nose and agree since she had already agreed to it. Find a chance later. Drag that little monster out and kill it for me. Do you understand? Goddess Incongruence said to the few big monster guards at the door when she left Qingping's room. An hour later, the monsters gathered at the square again. Qingping also made her grand entrance amidst the cheers of many monsters. However, what confused Goddess Incongruence was that the little monster was still by Qingping's side, while the few monster guards were nowhere to be seen. Goddess Incongruence did not know what happened inside. Goddess Incongruence did not have the time to investigate this matter, because the report about the outside world had already begun. To be honest, Qingping was not an excellent storyteller. Or rather, she was not even worthy of being a qualified storyteller. Be it the words she said or the stories she told, they were somewhat confusing. At the same time, there were many childish sounds in her words, making it difficult for the many demons to listen to her. Even so, the monsters finally understood the situation of the outside world. They knew that the outside world was in complete chaos. Humans, Yuan Ku, and Yuan Ku were killing each other endlessly. The humans had 8 base cities, while the monsters had many powerful forces. The war between the two had lasted for 1,000 years. However, according to Qingping's narration, she was no longer a sword maiden with a master. Instead, she was a sword maiden that had awakened on her own without any master. She wandered around the outside world for a few years and finally found this place. All the monsters who heard this story were dumbfounded. They never expected that such a huge change would happen in the past 1,000 years. Those guys from the 2D world had actually appeared in the main world. This was something that they had never heard of before, which made the monsters even more incredulous. According to Qingping, wouldn't there be people who looked exactly like her in the outside world? After all, they also existed in the 2D world. Lady Qingping, is there Yuan Ku outside who impersonated me and senior sister? Divine Mother Incongruence asked with a hint of seriousness after figuring out the situation. I don't know. Qingping shook her head. But the two of you are definitely not among the Yuan Ku that I've seen. If there really is one, that'll be interesting. Should I kill that impersonator with my own hands? Divine Mother Incongruence looked at her hands blankly and said, also, can I defeat my other self? Of course, these impersonators should be killed. There can only be one of me in the world. Lady Yunxiao said coldly. As for strength, if I'm weaker than an impersonator, I'd rather die in the hands of this impersonator. Hee hee. Divine Mother Incongruence laughed dryly. It was obvious that she did not agree with Lady Yunxiao's words. However, she could not refute it directly, so she asked, Lady Qingping, what's the level of the person with the highest combat power outside? Is there a sage-level combat power? This was a question that everyone was very concerned about. If there was no sage-level combat power outside, then their master could really do whatever he wanted. No, there are at most some guys who are similar to the two of you out there. There's definitely no one who can reach master's level, Qingping said with certainty. Her words made everyone heave a sigh of relief. It's great that there's no one. In that case, spring will come for us. Once master appears, it'll be time for everyone to rule the world. Lady Qingping, who's the #1 expert out there? Is it a human or that Yuan Ku? Who's more powerful? Some monsters below the stage asked excitedly. Chapter 1542. The #1 expert should be a human called Guhan. Qingping pretended that she did not know him and said to the crowd, the #1 expert should be a human called Guhan. What? The #1 expert outside is a human? Hearing this answer, all the monsters expressed their astonishment. They took it for granted that since Yuan Ku was a two-dimensional creature, it was impossible for a human to be the #1 expert no matter what. According to Qingping, anyone other than the sages could appear in Yuanko, which meant that the super freaks in the untainted land, such as Emperor Jun, Tai, Fuxi, Ming, and the 12 ancestors of sorcery. Any one of these peerless masters could easily defeat the whole world. How could a human be the #1 master? Lady Qingping, are you kidding us? How could this human be the number one expert? Monsters were all straightforward, so one of them jumped out and asked immediately. That's right, the number one expert is a human called Jiyu Han. As Qing Ping spoke, she raised both her hands to show that she was certain of her words. What did he do? Did Lady Qing Ping say that he was the number one expert just because he defeated a few lousy guys? Or did all the real experts die? A few monsters made a ruckus, causing all the monsters to burst into laughter. The scene suddenly became very cheerful. I don't know which Yuan Ku he killed before, but I know that he killed some Yuan Ku recently. Qing Ping looked at the laughter and said with dissatisfaction. Who did he kill? He killed 12 Zhu Wu. Oh, so it's trash like the 12 ancestral witches. Before the demons could finish their sentence, the joyous scene froze. Everyone looked at each other in disbelief and focused their attention on Qing Ping's face. Even the silent goddess Incongruence and Lady Yun Xiao had the same expression. Lady Qing Ping, you're not joking, right? Can you say it again? Who did Guhan kill? After a long silence, a monster swallowed and asked. The 12 Grand Wizards. Qing Ping repeated the name again. This time, the monsters did not say anything. They all knew who 12 Zhu Wu was. After all, they had stayed in this boring world for so long, and the only stories that could kill time were the stories from the primitive times. In the stories from the primitive times, there were always two main characters. One was the monster clan, and the other was the Wu people. No matter what the story was, 12 Zhu Wu was a powerful opponent. As the bloodline of Pangu, they had the power to stir up the world. They could kill a Chileen with a stomp and blow down a phoenix with a breath. They could destroy the heavenly court of the monster clan that had thousands of monsters at its peak and make them flee in all directions. When these 12 fellows gathered together, even saints would have to avoid them. Yet, such terrifying fellows actually died in the hands of a human. This sounded a little too ridiculous. If that was really the case, how powerful was this human? The level of a sage. At the thought of this, the monsters started to get restless again. The monsters, who had thought that the whole world was just around the corner, suddenly felt that the future would not be so smooth. Guhan was likely to become their biggest opponent. They might die in the hands of Guhan in the future battles. These monsters had stayed in this alternate space for hundreds of thousands of years. During these hundreds of thousands of years, they did not have any opponents. Therefore, their bloodthirst and combat ability from the primitive times had long been erased. After hearing that there was such a terrifying opponent, many monsters started to want to retreat. Everyone, calm down. Perhaps you didn't understand Lady Qingping's words clearly. Lady Qingping didn't say that the human defeated the 12 ancestral sorcerers, but only one of the 12 ancestral sorcerers. Everyone, don't panic. It's not impossible for Senior Sister and I to defeat an ancestral sorcerer. The Incongruence Divine Mother immediately jumped up and said when she saw the emotions of her subordinates fluctuating. That's right. This Guhan definitely didn't kill 12 Zhu Wus. He only killed one of the 12 Zhu Wus. Everyone immediately felt that Divine Mother Wudong's explanation made sense. They all breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. However, in the next second, those smiles disappeared again. It's not just one, it's 12. 12 Zhu Wus died together. I'm not wrong. I also saw them use the 12 Divine Fiend formation to gather the Pangu real body, but they were also killed by Guhan. I saw it with my own eyes. At that time, I was hiding on a nearby mountain, so I can't be wrong. I'm not wrong. Qingping waved her little fist to prove that her mathematical logic was very correct. However, this sentence made the scene fall into silence for the third time. What a joke. Even the 12 Zhu Wus that had gathered the Pangu real body were defeated. Could this Guhan have already reached the level of a sage? The monsters thought in panic. They had not even seen Guhan's face, but they were already extremely afraid of Guhan. Why are you guys panicking? Those 12 Zhu Wus aren't the real 12 Zhu Wus. They're just imposters from another dimension. Their abilities can't reach the level of the real 12 Zhu Wus. It's probably 10% or 20% at most. That Guhan can't possibly become a sage. What are you guys panicking for? Divine Mother Wudong saw that the situation was getting out of control, so she immediately jumped up and said. What she said sounded quite reasonable. That's right. Those aren't the real 12 Zuwus. They're just imposters from another dimension. Their abilities are definitely not as strong as the real 12 Zuwus. Thinking that, the scene finally calmed down a little. Divine Mother Wudong probably felt that she could not let Qingping continue, so she turned and said to Lady Yun Xiao, "Senior sister, I think that's it for today. Let's invite Madam Qingping back to rest." The incongruent saintess thought that Mistress Yun Xiao would reply to her immediately. However, when the incongruent saintess spoke, Mistress Yun Xiao didn't respond at all. Instead, she lowered her head and immersed herself in her own world. Nobody knew what she was thinking. "Senior sister, senior sister." Divine Mother Wudong shouted a few times before Lady Yun Xiao woke up from her own world. However, when Lady Yun Xiao woke up, the incongruent Divine Mother clearly saw some fear in Lady Yun Xiao's eyes. "What's wrong, senior sister? Senior sister, did you remember something?" Divine Mother Wudong realized that something was wrong and immediately asked. "Junior sister, do you remember something like this that happened back then?" Lady Yun Xiao hesitated for a while and then asked Divine Mother Wudong. "What happened?" "That was before Goddess Nua became a saint. Master took in his last disciple, and this disciple even defeated senior brother Duo Bao. Do you remember this, junior sister?" Lady Yun Xiao's body trembled slightly when she asked this question. "That was before Goddess Nua became a saint. That's impossible." Hearing Lady Yun Xiao's words, Divine Mother Wudong was shocked at first. Then, she said with certainty, "Although senior brother Duo Bao betrayed Master later on, he's definitely the strongest among the 8 of us. Even if you still have the primordial chaos golden chalice, you're not senior brother Duo Bao's match. Don't forget that the 3 of you sparred with senior brother Duo Bao and were all defeated by senior brother Duo Bao. Even the 3 of you are not senior brother Duo Bao's match. Among the 8 of us, who else can defeat senior brother Duo Bao? Tell me, among the 8 of us, who has the ability to defeat senior brother Duo Bao? You don't think that your brother, Zhao Gongming, has that ability, do you?" Divine Mother Wudong was very proud when she said that. There was even some nostalgia between her brows. Looks like our incongruent Divine Mother still has some indescribable feelings for her senior brother Duo Bao. What if the person who defeated senior brother Duo Bao isn't one of the 8 of us? Lady Yun Xiao said after hesitating for a while. "Are you kidding me? Everyone in the world knows that Master only has the 8 of us as his disciples. How can there be a 9th person? Isn't your consciousness messed up?" Divine Mother Wudong said unhappily. "No, my consciousness is right, and my memory is right too. After talking to you for so long, my memory is gradually becoming clearer." Lady Yun Xiao's eyes suddenly became clear. "I remember now. You weren't there at that time. You were sent by Master to monitor Great Witch Hu Yi. At that time, the 3 of us, brother Zhao Gongming, and senior brother Duo Bao were all in Baiyu Palace. Brother Zhao Gongming suddenly brought a guy in. Oh yeah, he even called himself a human then. At that time, Goddess Nua had yet to create humans, so how could there be humans in this world? After that, I don't remember what he said to Master. Master told him to fight with senior brother Duo Bao. If he could defeat senior brother Duo Bao, Master would take him in as the 9th disciple. In the end, he really defeated senior brother Duo Bao and even put his sword on senior brother Duo Bao's neck. The 3 of us were playing in the hall at that time. We don't remember much about what happened at the beginning, and we didn't care about it at all. It was only when the 2 of them started fighting that we realized something was wrong. There's such a thing. Why haven't I heard about it from the other brothers and sisters?" Divine Mother Wudong felt that Lady Yun Xiao did not seem to be lying, so she said in disbelief. Actually, incongruent Saint Mother was not the only one who was in disbelief. At that moment, the little demon who was standing beside the Qingping sword also began to tremble violently. In fact, the degree of shock was even greater than incongruent Saint Mother's. Wasn't that an illusion? Did that really happen? I really went back to the Primeval era. Guhan lowered his head, But the shock in him was like an atomic bomb. That was because only if Guhan really went back to the Primeval era would Lady Yun Xiao retain her memory of what happened millions of years ago. However, if that was the case, many of Guhan's guesses and plans regarding history, himself, Sword Lady, Tongtian, and the future would have to be changed. Chapter 1543. Immortal Trapping. What's going on with the 9 prefectures? Did I really go back to the prehistoric era? Guhan questioned the immortal trapping sword through his sword mark. I don't know, I really don't know anything. I can't tell if it was the real prehistoric era or a fake one. The immortal trapping sword's answer didn't seem to answer Guhan's question, but it meant that the immortal trapping sword also had doubts about the world of the 9 prefectures. If that was the case, he might have really returned to the prehistoric era. Senior Sister Cloudy Sky, why did you mention that guy who has been forgotten for millions of years? Even if Master really took in such a disciple and this disciple is so powerful, why didn't he come out to help us during the innumerable immortal formation battle? I think he's either dead or betrayed the Jie school. What else do you want him to do? Incongruence Divine Mother said unhappily. Because the 9th junior brother's name is Guhan. Cloudy Sky took a deep breath and said, Guhan? It's exactly the same as the name of the first expert outside. Incongruence Divine Mother finally reacted. Could it be that the number 1 human expert outside was actually the Jie school's 9th inner disciple? This sounded a little too inconceivable. Could it be a coincidence? There are so many humans, it's normal to have 1 or 2 with similar names. Senior Sister, aren't you thinking too much? Incongruence Divine Mother said with a frown. It's not that I'm thinking too much. I just remembered that that person seemed to have told Master that he wasn't from the prehistoric era, but that he came from the future. Yes, I remember that he said something like that, but at that time, I treated his words as a ridiculous lie. I didn't pay much attention to it and directly threw it out of my memory. If he didn't lie and was telling the truth, then the number 1 human expert is our 9th junior brother. Lady Qingping, when you were outside, did you ever see Guhan's appearance? Can you describe him to us? Cloudy Sky suddenly said to Qingping excitedly. Guhan. What should I do? Qingping was confused and asked Guhan secretly through the sword mark. Give it to them. Guhan didn't think for long and said directly. How about this? Humans have invented many strange things, including something that can record what happened in the past. There's a picture of Guhan here. I'll show it to you. After receiving Guhan's order, Qingping took out a small projector from her scabbard and played the recording of Guhan. What a magical treasure. It actually has the function of a mystic light mirror. Looking at this thing that could project images, Incongruence Divine Mother was shocked. No, this isn't a dark light mirror. It's a tool made by humans using technology. It's not a magic treasure. Cloudy Sky shook her head. She was different from Incongruence Divine Mother who was focused on cultivation. When she first entered this world, she found the refugees of the Yamato nation who hadn't lost their intelligence and learned a lot about the outside world. Therefore, she understood human technology and knew that this was not a magic treasure. The video recorded Guhan's trial in Yuzhang City. There were many close-ups of Guhan's face. When Cloudy Sky saw Guhan's face, she said with certainty, it's him, it's him. There's no mistake. He's our 9th junior brother, the last disciple Master accepted. There's no mistake. Are you sure? Incongruence Divine Mother scratched her messy hair. She didn't expect the outside world to be so strange. The strongest person who could defeat 12 Zhu Wu was her 9th junior brother. So he's really one of our patriarchs. That's great. The top human expert is the patriarch of Jie School, our 9th grandmaster. He's also a freak who could defeat 12 Zhu Wu. As long as we join hands with 9th grandmaster, the whole world will belong to our Jie School. When the monsters heard the conversation between Cloudy Sky and Incongruence Divine Mother, they shouted excitedly, as if they had unified the outside world. Why are you so happy? Let's not talk about whether it's true or not. After some time, we'll know if 9th junior brother is willing to recognize us as his senior sisters. We still have to be cautious. Don't place your hopes on others. Just wait here for Master's return. Incongruence Divine Mother's words were like a bucket of cold water poured over everyone's heads, calming them down. Indeed, as Incongruence Divine Mother said, even if Guhan was really their 9th Grandmaster, humans and monsters had always been at odds with each other. They wouldn't stand together so easily unless sect leader Tongtian was resurrected. Alright, the matters outside have come to an end for now. Next is the problem of how to deal with these human slaves. We've raised these humans for thousands of years, but these humans don't know how to be grateful at all. They actually colluded with outsiders to escape. This is simply unforgivable. Now that all 120,000 humans are under our control, let's discuss how to deal with these humans. The goddess of incongruence asked the crowd proudly. Patriarch, I think we should just kill them all and fill our stomachs. At the same time, we can have a sumptuous meal so that we won't cause any more trouble in the future. A pig demon jumped out and said, No, in my opinion, we should just whip them a few dozen times. If we kill all these humans, who will catch the longevity fruit for us? Immediately, a demon jumped out and objected. What's wrong with that? The meat of these humans is much more delicious than any longevity fruit. If we kill these humans and pickle them up, it will be enough for us to eat for a year or two. Another demon retorted. What's wrong with that? Another demon retorted. You idiot, do you just want to be happy for a year or two? In a year or two, we won't have any longevity fruit to eat, and we won't have any humans to eat. Let's see what you're going to say. Phut, the old ancestor will have revived in a year or two. At that time, we can kill our way out. Didn't you hear what Grandmaster Qing Pin said? There are still 200 to 300 million humans outside, enough for us to eat for the rest of our lives. What if the old ancestor doesn't come back? Without humans, do you want me to eat you? The demons were roughly divided into two groups. One group felt that they should kill all of the humans, while the other group felt that killing half of them would be enough. They still had to leave some humans behind to use as seeds. The two groups of demons were arguing so hard that they almost started fighting. These beasts. The old ancestor is right. Those who are not of my race must have different intentions. They should all be killed. Hearing the discussions of the demons, Guhan said angrily in his heart. These demons were actually discussing how to swallow humans alive and make them into delicacies. What was the difference between this kind of demon and Yuan Ku? These demons had to be killed, otherwise, if they were to be released outside, they would be the same as Yuan Ku, a great disaster. Although the two groups of demons were arguing endlessly, with the suppression of the goddess of incongruence and the mistress of Yun Xiao, they gradually found a common ground. In the end, these demons unanimously decided to kill all the humans above the age of 6, cook and eat the delicate ones, and make the older ones into bacon, which could be used slowly in the future. As for those under the age of 6, they could continue to be raised like this. When they grew up, they would become the slaves of the demons who picked the longevity fruit. This sounded like the best of both worlds. Not only could they kill all the new human slaves that had already been born, but they wouldn't completely cut off the source of human slaves in the future. In any case, the humans who survived were still young. With a little brainwashing, they would still be obedient slaves in the future. Very good. Since everyone has come up with a proper plan, then it's decided. At the same time, she ordered the demons to filter out the captured human slaves. Those under the age of 6 were locked up in another place, while those above the age of 6 were all gathered on a large piece of flat land outside the city. When the demons heard that they could eat human flesh, they were naturally overjoyed. They quickly followed the goddess of incongruence's orders, and in less than 20 minutes, they came back to report that they had finished following the goddess of incongruence's orders. All the humans had been divided into two groups according to their age. All right. The goddess of incongruence smiled slightly. At the same time, she clenched her right hand in the air and a pitch-black ball that looked like a black hole appeared in her hand. Soul-shaking and soul-scattering technique. Seeing the black ball in the incongruence divine mother's hand, Ji Han's pupils dilated. It was not unreasonable to say that the Jie sect was an evil sect. Most of the spells in the Jie sect were sinister and vicious spells that specialized in attacking the human soul. The great art of soul shaking and soul dispersing was a very famous spell in the Jie school. When it was used, it could completely shatter the soul of an opponent whose magic power was inferior to the user's into powder. In other words, it was the so-called soul dispersing. The soul-shattering spell was actually quite useless. This was because the spell could only be effective when one's magic power was more than 10 times that of the opponent. Moreover, as the number of opponents within the spell's range increased, the magic power required would also increase. Therefore, this spell was not practical in a battle between experts. However, it was the most suitable spell to deal with a group of enemy soldiers, especially the 120,000 humans who were trapped together. These humans were all ordinary people and had no magic power to speak of. With the goddess of incongruence's magic power, as long as she casually threw it, the 120,000 humans would probably have their souls shattered and die on the spot. What was even more amazing was that this spell attacked the soul and did not actually harm the human body. Therefore, after their souls disappeared, these humans could still rely on their physical abilities to live for a period of time. In other words, they were in a vegetative state. Wasn't that the best ingredient for the demons? Not only could it ensure the freshness of the ingredient, but it would also not cause a lot of trouble due to the ingredient's resistance. It was no wonder that the goddess of incongruence would choose to use this spell to kill the remaining humans. Chapter 1544. Go. The black ball that contained enough power to shatter the souls of 100,000 people slowly drifted away from Divine Mother Wudong's hand and gradually accelerated. In the end, it charged towards the bustling and terrified crowd outside the city at the speed of a sports car. As soon as the black ball hit the ground, the 100,000 humans would all die. Sigh. What a sin. It was also at this moment that the demons suddenly heard a slight sigh. Then, a golden sword beam soared into the sky from beside them and struck the black sphere. The entire black sphere was immediately split into two, and a huge amount of energy exploded in the air. Some of the unlucky demons near the explosion point were hit by the energy. 3 of the weakest monsters had their souls scattered on the spot while the rest fainted on the spot. They bled from their 7 orifices. It was obvious that their souls were severely injured, but it wasn't to the extent where they were completely destroyed. Where did this saint come from? How dare he ruin the Jie clan's business? Is he tired of living? Saint Mother Wudong and Lady Yun Xiao's expressions changed when they saw their black ball being destroyed. Although the soul-squandering technique was a spell that Saint Mother Wudong casually used, it had actually gathered around 30% of Saint Mother Wudong's power. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to kill 100,000 humans at the same time. However, the person destroyed Saint Mother Wudong's black ball with a single sword chi. Even if the sword chi was the person's full power, the person's power was around 30% of Saint Mother Wudong's. That was enough to threaten Saint Mother Wudong. Where is the person who shot the sword chi? Saint Mother Wudong and Goddess Yun Xiao's first reaction was to find the owner of the sword energy. However, the sword energy was extremely fast. Saint Mother Wudong and Goddess Yun Xiao weren't prepared at all. They didn't even know where the sword energy came from in a hurry. Ancestor, I saw it just now. The sword chi came from the stage. An eagle monster below the stage said. As an eagle, its vision was naturally extremely sharp. Only he could find the source of the sword chi when Saint Mother Wudong couldn't see it clearly. On the stage, Saint Mother Wudong did not doubt the eagle monster's words. It was obvious that the person was on the stage. The incongruence Divine Mother and Lady Yun Xiao could obviously be eliminated. The rest of the monsters on the stage were the incongruence Divine Mother's trusted subordinates. The incongruence Divine Mother definitely believed that these guys wouldn't betray her. Even if they did, they wouldn't have such power. In that case, it was obvious that the Qingping sword was the only one who could do that. Her opponent was a sword, and Tongqian's sword at that, so of course it could release the powerful sword chi. Although there was a weak little monster beside the Qingping sword that incongruent Saint Mother had never seen before, she did not think that the little monster had the ability to destroy her spell. Hence, she ignored it out of habit. It's me. Seeing Incongruent's Divine Mother's suspicious gaze, Qing Ping readily nodded and admitted, it's me. I was the one who used that sword chi just now. Ancestor Qingping, why did you do that? Saint Mother Wudong heaved a sigh of relief when she heard Qingping admit it. She thought that an enemy had invaded. Since it was Qingping who stopped them, then they were no longer his enemies. However, the incongruent Saint Mother immediately became somewhat furious. What was this old ancestor Qingping thinking? Why did he do such a thing? When I was traveling outside, I made friends with many humans. Don't hurt these poor humans. Let's just set them free and let them go to their own cities. Qingping puffed up her chubby cheeks and said in a cute and matter-of-fact manner. Ancestor Qingping, how can you think like that? These humans are just our slaves. If they're loyal, they can keep their lives. However, since they chose to betray us, they have to die. Ancestor Qingping, mercy doesn't lead an army. If our Jeschool wants to return to the world and recreate the glory of the primordial era, we have to use our supreme might to suppress the entire world. If we don't even kill these traitorous slaves, then who in the world will believe in our dignity? Saint Mother Wudong said domineeringly. But these humans are innocent. Many of them didn't want to escape. They don't even know what happened. You can't kill those innocent humans. Qing Ping retorted with her eyes wide open. In the primordial era, if one person made a mistake, the entire tribe would be annihilated. This is a matter of course. Otherwise, who would have the time to distinguish whether they want to rebel or not? And even if they don't want to rebel now, they will still want to rebel if they have the chance in the future. It's better to kill them all now and save yourself some trouble in the future. Saint Mother Wudong's words could be said to be a classic bandit's logic. No, I am the Qingping sword, the master's sword, the grandmaster of all of you. Listen to my orders, you are not allowed to kill these humans. At most, you can return to your previous state and let these humans catch the longevity fruit for you. Qing Ping stood up and used her weak body to block in front of Saint Mother Wudong. Seeing Qing Ping's obstruction, Saint Mother Wudong hesitated. There was indeed the Grandmaster of Heaven standing behind Qing Ping, and since Qing Ping had said that, if she were to make a move, wouldn't that be Junior Sister Wudong? Behind her, Lady Yun Xiao suddenly said in a deep voice, Junior Sister Wudong, don't you think it's strange? Why is our Jeschool's Grandmaster Qing Ping speaking up for humans? Didn't she only move around outside for a few years? Why does she care so much about humans, to the point that she doesn't even hesitate to fight against us, her former disciples? That's right. Why? Goddess Wudong was stunned when she heard this, and asked, Junior Sister Wudong, have you forgotten? Just now, Grandmaster Qing Ping personally told us that the swords forged by humans, the swords used by us demons and immortals, and even the carnate cardinal treasures and Shenyuan sword of the primordial era have all become sword maidens in the hands of humans, fighting for humans. Then, could it be that our Grandmaster Qing Ping lied to the two of us? Is she no longer Master's sword Qing Ping, but a human's sword maiden Qing Ping? You should know that in the primordial era, we've never seen Qing Ping's sword turn into this human form. Lady Yun Xiao said faintly. As soon as she said that, all the demons present felt like they were about to explode. That's right. Just now, Grandmaster Qing Ping clearly said that all swords have become sword maidens of humans. If that's the case, how did Grandmaster Qing Ping escape? How could she turn into a free human form and move around? There was only one explanation, and that was that Grandmaster Qing Ping had also become a sword maiden. Previously, the demons were immersed in the shocking news brought by Qing Ping, and did not think so much about it. Now that they heard Lady Yun Xiao's words, they immediately felt that it made sense. Many of Grandmaster Qing Ping's actions looked extremely strange. However, if that was really the case, and the supreme sword of the Jie sect, Qing Ping's sword, had actually become a sword maiden of humans, wouldn't that be a slap to the face of the Jie sect? At the thought of that, the demons felt like their heads were about to explode. I'm not a sword maiden. You've misunderstood me. Seeing Lady Yun Xiao and Goddess Wudong's aggressive expressions, Qing Ping could not help but feel a little flustered, and he kept denying it. Grandmaster Qing Ping, can you turn back into your sword form? Let us take a good look at you. If you really have a fragment of our master's consciousness in your body, then we've wronged you. We're willing to apologize to our master personally. Lady Yun Xiao and Divine Mother Wudong said. No. I'm really not. I don't want you to check. You can't check me. Other than saying that, Qingpin did not seem to know what else to say. All right then. It's fine if you don't want to check me. I'll attack again. This time, Lady Qingping, you can't stop me. Goddess Wudong scoffed. The black sphere from earlier appeared, and it was even bigger than before. Go. Under the gaze of all the demons, Divine Mother Incongruence tossed out the black ball in her hand once again. At the same time, she glared at poor Qing. If poor Qing dared to unleash any golden sword beam, Divine Mother Incongruence would be able to confirm Qingping's identity as a traitor. At the same time, she would control Qingping on the spot. As the black ball flew further and closer to the terrified human, Qingping did not resist at all. This made the incongruence Divine Mother suspect that she had guessed wrongly. Was Qingping not the human sword lady? At that moment, Goddess Wudong suddenly felt the power in her body go haywire. She knew that her great technique of soul shuddering and soul dispersing was destroyed for the second time. At that moment, the demons below the platform exclaimed, "Golden Sword Qi! That golden sword Qi has appeared again. Impossible. I've been staring at her. She didn't use any sword Qi at all. Where did the golden sword Qi come from?" Goddess Wudong immediately shouted and pointed at Qingping. "Qingpin, come back." Goddess Wudong and Lady Yun Xiao heard a sigh, and the Qingping sword in front of them instantly turned into a sword gleam and disappeared before their eyes. The two of them immediately looked in the direction where the sword gleam disappeared. In the end, they saw an unhappy little demon walking to their side silently. "Who are you? Who exactly are you?" It was only then that Divine Mother Incongruence came to her senses. All the problems actually stemmed from this inconspicuous little demon. Who exactly is this little demon? Why does it have the power to deal with 30% of my power? Senior Sister Wudong, Senior Sister Yun Xiao, I'm here to greet you. The little demon calmly bowed to the two senior sisters. At the same time, the demon's image started to degenerate rapidly. In the end, it turned into a handsome human. Guhan, ninth junior brother, Lady Yun Xiao and Goddess Wudong shouted at the same time. Chapter 1545. Be on guard. A demon shouted. All the demons instantly tensed up. Some demons took out their weapons, while others simply transformed into their original forms. The entire venue was immediately filled with an extremely tense atmosphere, as though a fight was about to break out at any moment. What are you doing? All of you, calm down. This is my ninth junior brother and also your ninth martial granduncle. What are you all doing? All of you, take your things back. Lady Yun Xiao's gaze swept across all the monsters. The monsters hesitated for a while, then retracted their battle stances and returned to their original forms. So, Senior Sister Yun Xiao still recognizes me as your junior brother. I was too rude just now. Guhan smiled. He actually did not care about these monsters. Apart from Divine Mother Wudong and Goddess Yun Xiao, the rest of the demons combined were not enough to withstand the 10 swords of Jiyu Han. Only Divine Mother Wudong and Goddess Yun Xiao could make Jiyu Han have some fighting spirit. Don't call me senior sister. I don't care if you're our junior brother or not. Incongruence Divine Mother spat. She kept her guard up against the solid cold. Can this prove it? Guhan waved his hand and the Qingping sword floated quietly beside Guhan. At the same time, as Guhan's fingers moved, the Qingping sword reacted in all sorts of ways. Clearly, the Qingping sword was under Guhan's control. Senior sisters, if I'm not Master's disciple, why do you think I'm recognized by Lady Qingping sword? Guhan squinted his eyes and said, "This." Everyone hesitated. Yes, the Qingping sword was the most precious treasure of the Jie school. Since this human could use the Qingping sword, he definitely had a deep relationship with the Jie school. The Qingping sword could prove many things. There's no proof. Who knows if you used some despicable method to force Lady Qingping to recognize you as her master? The incongruence Divine Mother said in disbelief. This Qingping sword is Master's sword, and Master has never given it to anyone to use. What right do you have to gain Master's approval? Master definitely wouldn't give the Qingping sword to you. Senior Sister Yun Xiao, do you remember that back when we fought Senior Brother Myriad Treasure in Green Touring Palace, Master gave Junior Brother the Qingping sword to use? It was also at that time that I formed an indissoluble bond with the Qingping sword dame. That's why I can coordinate with the Qingping sword dame and fight together, Gu Han said indifferently. Really? Divine Mother Incongruence cast a confused look at Goddess Yun Xiao. Back then, Divine Mother Incongruence did not witness what happened in Aquamarine Palace with her own eyes. Only Goddess Yun Xiao was there. Yes. That's true. Lady Yun Xiao nodded, confirming Gu Han's words. Are you really our little junior brother? Incongruence Divine Mother started to believe Gu Han's identity. I guarantee it. Gu Han smiled. Then tell me, did you live from the Primeval era until now, or did you travel through time and space to become Master's disciple? Divine Mother Incongruence asked curiously. I'm only 45 years old this year. Senior Sister, what do you think is the possibility? Gu Han smiled. Alright, if that's the case, I shall help Master clean up the sect today, Divine Mother Incongruence shouted. She gathered mana in her hands and all sorts of spells were produced instantly. She was ready to smash at Gu Han's head. Junior Sister, what are you doing? Seeing that the situation was bad, Goddess Yun Xiao grabbed Divine Mother Incongruence's hands and shouted. I'm going to help Master kill this ungrateful bee ****. Divine Mother Incongruence said angrily. What are you talking about? How is 9th junior brother ungrateful? Goddess Yun Xiao said confusedly. Since this guy returned to the past from the present, he naturally knows the history of the Jie sect very well. He knows that the Jie sect was destroyed by the Primeval Lord of Heaven, Taishang Laojun, Saint Jie Yin, and Daoist Zhuanti. Yet, he didn't tell Master about these things. In the end, tens of thousands of our disciples and grand disciples all died, and those pitiful junior brothers even worked hard for others. The huge Jie sect was also destroyed in an instant. If this guy told Master about these things, then why would we have to endure such pain and torture? The incongruence Divine Mother screamed. She pushed all the responsibility of suffering to Ji Yu Han. Junior Sister, you're crazy. With the strength of those 4 saints, even if we are prepared, we will still die in their hands. The existence of our Jie school is their biggest mistake. Even if there is no great God-conferment war, they will definitely not let us go. Lady Yun Xiao pushed Divine Mother Wudong to the side and shouted, also, don't forget, with Master's personality, even if he knew all this, he wouldn't retreat at all. Even if he knew that it was a bottomless abyss in front of him, he would still walk in. Divine Mother Incongruence sighed and put down her hands weakly. The mana that she accumulated earlier also disappeared without a trace. Let me correct you. Actually, because of the apocalypse, we humans have already lost all the history of the past. I only learned about the existence of the Primeval era after I returned to the Primeval era. After returning to the modern era, I desperately searched for all kinds of stories and information about the Primeval era. Only then did I understand a little about the Jie sect. However, it was too late. I've already returned to the modern era, so I can't tell Master about these things anymore. Gu Han sighed and said, You're stingy with your sweet word. Divine Mother Incongruence snorted in disdain. However, she did not shout at Gu Han anymore. Goddess Yun Xiao could finally start chatting with Gu Han seriously. Junior brother Gu Han, we just learned about the outside world from ancestor Qingping. Is the truth like what she said? Goddess Yun Xiao asked curiously. That's the truth. Gu Han nodded. Junior brother, are you the leader of hundreds of millions of humans in the outside world? The strongest human who even defeated 12 Zhu Wu, right? Goddess Yun Xiao asked again. That's right. Gu Han nodded and admitted it without hesitation. He's lying. It's impossible for him to be so powerful. Divine Mother Incongruence screamed again. Actually, I don't care if you guys believe me or not. Seeing that my senior sisters are still alive is the best news for me. I thought that the Jie school had come to an end. I didn't expect the 2 senior sisters and their disciples to still be alive. That's great. As for the rest, it's up to my 2 senior sisters whether you believe me or not. In the future, if the Jie sect needs my help, just say the word and I'll be at your service. Seeing Divine Mother Incongruence's reaction, Guhan did not seem to be bothered to explain anymore. He said straightforwardly, "Don't make it sound so nice. What do you mean by being at my service? If you really respect our 2 senior sisters, why did you interrupt my spell twice just now? Do you still respect me as your senior sister?" Divine Mother Incongruence brought the topic back to what happened just now. "Senior sister, please don't blame me. Although I, Guhan, am Master's disciple, I'm also the emperor of all humans. I lead billions of humans in the world, and all humans in the world are my people. I'm their father, and they're my children. If you can't even protect your own children, what kind of parent am I?" Guhan said coldly. "Is this the reason why you fought with your senior sister? You have no respect for your elders." The incongruence goddess spat, "They're just some useless human slaves. Don't forget that we're the ones who raised these humans. They're like pigs that you keep in a pigsty. Don't we, the masters, have the right to slaughter them? The human up there, if you're really our 9th martial granduncle, then be more generous. Why are you being stingy? That's right. If you really have hundreds of millions of people under you, then these 200,000 humans are nothing to you. Even if you send a few million humans in for a feast, that's only natural. We, the Jie sect, are one. We're all close brothers. Isn't it more intimate than some lowly humans?" The demons below the stage began to scream. Some of them even asked Guhan to send a few million humans for them to eat. "Junior brother, did you hear what your disciples and grand disciples are saying? I don't need you to send a few million people in. Get out of my way and let me kill these domestic pigs. Then, I'll give you a piece of meat to taste. I promise you that once you taste human flesh, you'll fall in love with it just like us." Divine Mother Incongruence laughed. "It seems like there's nothing more to say between us." Ji Yuhan let out a long sigh. He had no intention of stepping aside. Then junior brother can only offend senior sisters. Senior sisters, kill junior brother first, then go and kill junior brother's people. Do you think I don't dare to do it? Then let me teach you the supreme technique of the Jie sect today. I'll let you know why I'm your senior sister. Divine Mother Incongruence was enraged. The demonic power in her hand appeared again, and she fought with Guhan. "I'm sorry." Guhan pulled out the Qingpin sword and began to deal with her attacks. Both of them were top-notch experts in the world. In the blink of an eye, countless spells and sword techniques were exchanged. As time passed, Incongruence Divine Mother felt more and more terrified. This human swordsmanship was truly unimaginably powerful. He did not use any magic, but he could use the Qingping sword to destroy all the spells that she had painstakingly gathered. Divine Mother Incongruence had never seen such a battle technique in her life. What was even more frightening was that this human was always in a passive state of emergency. In battle, he would often throw out a spell, and the opponent would directly use a sword to cut off the entire spell. This meant that Ji Yuhan was only defending, and had no intention of attacking. Otherwise, if the other party counterattacked, Divine Mother Incongruence really did not know how to deal with it. "Senior sister, help me." Divine Mother Incongruence shouted at Lady Yun Xiao, who was beside her in fear. Chapter 1546. Sigh. Goddess Yun Xiao was helpless. Although she did not want to fight against Guhan, the Incongruence Divine Mother was already in danger. She was closer to this junior sister of hers after all, so how could she let her be in danger? She could only join the battle. With Goddess Yun Xiao's help, the Incongruence Divine Mother instantly became excited. Other than throwing out their own spells, they also worked together to perform some secret spells that could only be performed by working together. These secret spells were much more powerful than normal spells. The Incongruence Divine Mother felt that this human would definitely not be able to withstand the secret spells that the two of them used together. However, reality slapped her in the face. The incongruence Divine Mother and Goddess Yun Xiao's collaboration did not change the situation of the battle. Gu Han was still able to withstand the full attack of the two desolate-level Yuan Ku. He did not panic at all. This attack clearly had not reached Gu Han's limit. Damn it, if my Mountain Li seal was still here, I would not allow this bastard to be so arrogant. Seeing that the two of them were still being suppressed, the incongruence Divine Mother roared in anger. The Mountain Li seal was the incongruence Divine Mother's treasure. It was a primordial spiritual treasure. It was said that it could instantly turn into a mountain that weighed millions of tons and crush any opponent into meat paste. It was the incongruence Divine Mother's strongest treasure. Unfortunately, this treasure was destroyed in the Battle of 10,000 Deities Town. Otherwise, the incongruence Divine Mother felt that her power could at least increase by 3 times. Why are you talking about this now? If I still had the primordial chaos golden chalice, everything would be even simpler. Goddess Yun Xiao rolled her eyes at the incongruence Divine Mother. Her Mountain Li seal was a primordial spiritual treasure, but her primordial chaos golden chalice was a primordial ultimate treasure. It was a treasure of the same level as the Qingping sword. If she had the primordial chaos golden chalice, apart from the sages, no one in the world would be her match. She would not be trapped by this junior. No matter how much the incongruence Divine Mother and Goddess Yun Xiao missed their past treasures, the reality was that even if they worked together, they would not be able to break through Gu Han's defense. That was the most fatal point. Don't be so arrogant. Goddess Incongruence glared at Gu Han with resentment. Then, she quickly shot a glance at one of her trusted demons. The demon immediately came to a realization and led a few other demons to sneak out of the square, heading straight for the humans who were trapped outside the city. The incongruence Divine Mother's plan was simple. I might not be able to break through your defense, but I want to disgust you. Don't you want to protect those humans? I'll let the old man's subordinates kill all of them. At that time, you'll have wasted your effort. It had to be said that Goddess Incongruence's plan was very vicious and difficult to deal with. After all, Gu Han seemed to be completely occupied by Goddess Incongruence and Lady Cloudy Sky. He could no longer save the pitiful humans who were about to die in the hands of the monsters. How dare you? Ji Yu Han snorted coldly as he watched the monsters brandishing their terrifying weapons about to charge into the group of pitiful aboriginals. He didn't want to play with the two senior sisters any longer. He pushed the poverty sword forward with force, and at the same time, an endless amount of sword chi surged out. After becoming Jendi, Gu Han's power had reached a terrifying level. When the sword aura burst out from his body, it was a powerful move that even Zhu Wu could not handle, let alone the two monsters who had lost their treasures. Therefore, the moment the sword aura burst out, Goddess Incongruence and Lady Cloudy Sky, who had been suppressing Gu Han, were instantly sent flying by Gu Han. Their bodies smashed through tens of buildings before they finally stopped. Before the few monsters could do anything to these pitiful humans, they realized that Ji Yu Han had unknowingly appeared in front of them. Ninth Marshal Granduncle, please spare us. The monsters were shocked. They quickly threw away their weapons and knelt before Gu Han, kowtowing and begging for mercy. Fat. On the other side, Goddess Incongruence, who climbed out of the collapsed house, looked extremely furious. She shouted that she wanted to kill Gu Han to take revenge. That's enough. What Goddess Incongruence did not expect was that Lady Cloudy Sky, who had also climbed up, slapped Goddess Incongruence's face. The crisp sound could be heard from a few kilometers away. Junior sister. How dare you hit me? Goddess Incongruence was stunned and looked at Lady Cloudy Sky in disbelief. If I don't hit you, are you going to watch us from the Jie school kill each other? Lady Cloudy Sky said angrily, haven't you realized it yet? What ancestor Qingping said is true. This 9th junior brother is definitely a powerhouse. I'm afraid he has already surpassed senior brother Duobao back then. He's the strongest person below the sage. We won't be his match even if all of us work together. Do you want to bring us to our deaths? But he doesn't respect his elders. He actually dared to attack her senior sister. As her senior sister, if I don't teach him a lesson, how can I? Goddess Incongruence said unwillingly. If you want to teach him a lesson, you have to have the ability to defeat him. Otherwise, it'll be us from the J-School killing each other. We'll be a joke to others, Lady Cloudy Sky said angrily. Lady Yun Xiao said angrily, during the Great God Conferment War, we were able to unite as one by befriending tens of thousands of disciples. Could it be that, at such a critical moment, they were going to kill each other and fight to the death? He's our 9th junior brother after all. As long as we have his help, we can totally leave this damn place and rebuild the world ruled by the J-School. Do you really want to push 9th junior brother to the enemy's side? But I can't accept it. Are we just going to be bullied like this? Goddess Incongruence said unwillingly. You idiot. No matter how powerful 9th junior brother is, can he be more powerful than Master? Now that Master's return is imminent, you can complain to Master if you have any grievances. At that time, I believe that Master will make a fair decision. There's no need for you to continue killing each other. At that time, Master won't forgive you. Moreover, didn't you notice that 9th junior brother has been holding back? Just based on the extremely cold sword chi that he released earlier, do you really think we can fight him with just the two of us if he really goes all out? He already considered our relationship and didn't kill us. Otherwise, the two of us would definitely be severely injured. Lady Cloudy Sky's last sentence probably worked. Goddess Incongruence finally stopped resisting and nodded obediently. She agreed with Lady Cloudy Sky's words. Junior brother, our two senior sisters were a little impulsive just now. We are all from the J-School, and we are good brothers and sisters. These are all your disciples and grand disciples. Why do we have to go to this step and kill each other? Everyone, put away your weapons. Lady Cloudy Sky brought Goddess Incongruence back to Guhan and said with a smile. Senior sister, you can also tell that I've never wanted to fight my fellow disciples. However, since you're the ruler of humans, you must protect your people. These humans can't stay here anymore. I'm going to send them back to the human world. What do you think, senior sister? Guhan looked at the 200,000 humans behind him and said. The humans were in a daze. They had no idea that they had just gone through a life and death crisis. If Guhan didn't stop them, their souls would have been destroyed and they would have become delicacies in the monsters' stomachs. That's easy. Since they're your people and your people, they're also our people. Of course, we'll treat them well. Junior brother, don't worry. We'll take care of these humans in the future, Lady Cloudy Sky said gently. Senior sister, I'm afraid you heard it wrong. I'm going to bring all these humans out. I don't want them to stay here and continue to trouble you, Guhan said with a smile. You. 9th junior brother. Goddess Incongruence clenched her teeth and suppressed her anger. She tried her best to smile and said, 9th junior brother, you don't believe us? Since senior sister said that she would treat them well, of course, she would. Junior brother, you don't have to worry about that. The people of the J denomination are true to their words. We are not like the guys of the Chan denomination who are full of schemes and tricks to harm our fellow disciples. I, 9th junior brother, feel bad leaving these humans here for senior sisters to take care of. There's no need to say anything else. I'll definitely send these humans away. Senior sisters, just tell me, are you going to let them go or not? Guhan said without any hesitation. Let them go. Of course. What else could Mistress Yun Xiao do? She could only nod in agreement. Although the monsters behind her were not happy to see the delicacy that was in their mouths fly away, they could only nod in agreement when they thought of the scene where the two ancestors were sent flying. Thank you, senior sister. Guhan nodded at Lady Cloudy Sky to express his gratitude. Then, he found the fattest woman among the 200,000 people. This woman had met Guhan once before. She was the lady boss of the Human Inn, who was also Amakusa Ichiro's contact. Ji Han said a few words to the lady boss, then placed a AI chip in her hand. Finally, with a wave of sword chi, he sent the lady boss out of this alternate dimension through the secret passageway from before. In less than 10 minutes, many human swordsmen walked out of the secret passage. First, He vigilantly observed his surroundings and found that there were no monsters lying in ambush. At the same time, he also saw that Ji Han was confronting all the monsters. Only then did he feel relieved and walked behind Ji Han. Amakusa Ichiro took the lead and was the first to reach Ji Han's back. Guhan gave Amakusa Ichiro a few more instructions. Amakusa Ichiro nodded and passed a dimensional bag to Guhan. Then, he immediately led his people to evacuate the 200,000 humans. With the efforts of these swordsmen, the 200,000 humans quickly ran towards the freedom and light that they had not seen in 1,000 years. Junior brother, are you satisfied now? Seeing the humans that she had raised painstakingly for 1,000 years all run away, the incongruence goddess said through gritted teeth. Thank you for your kindness, senior sister. Junior brother apologizes to both of you. Guhan bowed to the two of them and waved his hand gently. The dimensional bag that Amakusa Ichiro had brought was instantly opened. A large number of baked sesame cakes, buckets of fragrant rice, and roasted pigs were sent out by Guhan from the dimensional bag and placed in front of everyone. These are all my apologies, I hope that everyone will kindly accept them, Ji Han said with a slight smile. Chapter 1547. Perhaps only the demons themselves knew how hard it was for them to live in this alternate dimension. The most delicious thing in this alternate dimension was the longevity fruit that was made up of pure protein. The only source of meat was those pitiful humans. And this alternate dimension was a place that lacked oil and salt. There were no seasonings, and the only cooking methods were barbecue and boiling. What delicious food could there be? Therefore, when Guhan took out the dimensional bag full of food, all the demons went crazy and started to fight for the delicious food. Among all the food that Guhan brought, the one that was consumed the fastest was not the meat that Guhan had expected, but the green vegetables. If these demons wanted to eat meat, they could occasionally eat one or two humans. However, it was impossible for them to eat vegetables because it was impossible for any vegetables to grow in this alternate dimension that was filled with magma. These useless fellows were actually fooled by a mere leaf. Seeing that her subordinates were fighting for the food that Guhan had brought, and some of the demons were even fighting over a few plates of vegetables, the goddess of Wudang said angrily, "Senior sisters, please don't be angry anymore. Junior brother will apologize to senior sisters and let senior sisters taste these things." Guhan smiled and took out some golden food from another dimensional bag and sent it to Lady Yun Xiao and the goddess of Wudang. What is this? Did you put poison in it? The goddess of Wudang immediately said warily. Senior sister, you must be joking. Is there any poison in this world that can be placed in senior sister's poison? This is just an ordinary cake, it's all a little something from junior brother, Guhan said with a bitter smile. The goddess of Wudang did not believe Guhan's words. Instead, she looked at the cake in Guhan's hand even more warily. Let me try one. What the goddess of Wudang did not expect was that a fragrant wind blew past her, and the piece of cake in Guhan's hand disappeared without a trace. Senior sister Yun Xiao, what are you doing? What if this bastard poisoned it? Seeing Lady Yun Xiao eat the cake in one bite, the incongruence divine mother said anxiously, I believe that my 9th junior brother will not harm me, his senior sister. Yun Xiao chewed the cake in his mouth and revealed an intoxicated expression. He smiled and said, what's more, with 9th junior brother's ability, if he wanted to harm us, he could have just done it. Why would he waste so much effort? This cake is really delicious. Can I have another one? Lady Yun Xiao quickly swallowed the entire cake and looked at the rest of the cake in Guhan's hand with envy. Of course, these cakes are specially prepared for you two senior sisters, Guhan said with a smile. Good junior brother, really good junior brother. Yun Xiao praised Guhan and quickly snatched the remaining cakes from Guhan's hands. F***CK. Senior sister, don't eat it all by yourself. Let junior sister have a taste of what it tastes like. The incongruence divine mother had actually smelled the fragrance of the cake long ago. When she saw that almost all the cakes in Guhan's hands were eaten by Lady Yun Xiao, she immediately snatched the last cake and stuffed it into her mouth. She bit it hard and flew into the sky. Oh my god! There's actually such delicious food in this world. The incongruence Divine Mother recalled the delicious food in her mouth and was so excited that tears almost flowed out. Not to mention, after falling into this alternate dimension, even during the primordial era when the Jeschool was at its peak, she had never eaten such delicious food. Junior brother, do you have more? And this egg, cake? The incongruence Divine Mother asked anxiously. Yes, but not much. These are prepared for me. There's not much left even in the human world. Guhan smiled bitterly. Then, he took out all the remaining cakes in his dimensional pocket and gave them all to the two senior sisters. Guhan was lying through his teeth. This was not a precious cake at all. It was an egg cake that Guhan bought from the most ordinary cake shop. Before the apocalypse, it would cost 1 yuan for 2 pieces and 5 yuan per kilogram. Of course, the incongruence Divine Mother and the incongruence Divine Mother did not know that. They felt that it was the most precious thing in the world when they tasted the shocking delicacy in their mouths. Then, one of the two senior sisters said that Yun Xiao had eaten a few more pieces of cake, so she should have more of it now. The other one said that this was a different group, a yard was a yard, and this time, it should be divided equally. These two senior sisters who had worked together for thousands of years almost fought for the sake of Ji Yuhan's cake. Yes, thousands of years of sisterhood could not even compare to a piece of cake. Alright, this was actually just an interesting joke. With the relationship between the incongruence Divine Mother and the incongruence Divine Mother and the incongruence Divine Mother, they would definitely not fight over a small piece of cake. However, it was undeniable that the deliciousness of the cake had completely attracted the cravings of these two ancient demons. After eating 7 to 8 pieces, they realized that there was not much left in their hands. They kept it carefully and planned to eat a piece when they were hungry in the future. Senior sisters, you don't have to be stingy. It's just a small amount of cake. I don't have any more. However, if I can't satisfy both of you, it'll be my fault. Ji Yuhan smiled and said, Junior brother has already given the order to my subordinates. At the latest the day after tomorrow, there will be more cakes being sent in. I guarantee that both senior sisters will be satisfied. Good junior brother. Senior sister thanks you so much. I appreciate your kindness. Incongruence Divine Mother spoke first. Good. Junior brother. The incongruence Divine Mother struggled for a long time before she finally said it. Fellow sect members, humans are my people. Please give me face and don't harm humans in the future. However, I promise everyone that in the future, food like today's will be sent here once every month. Everyone will be able to eat the delicacies that have been meticulously cooked by us humans. What do you guys think? Guhan suddenly flew into the sky and spoke to all the demons with a voice that echoed throughout the alternate dimension. Great. This is great. This is great. That's right. If we can eat such delicious food every day, who would be willing to eat that sour human flesh? Long live the 9th Grand Master. 9th Grand Master is great. When the demons heard Guhan's words, their resentment towards Guhan for stopping them from eating human flesh disappeared instantly. They began to praise Guhan loudly. This 9th junior brother really knows how to win people's heart. The incongruence Divine Mother said sourly when she saw how Ji Yuhan managed to win the favor of almost all the monsters with just some food. If you're not happy, why don't we work together to chase 9th junior brother out? Incongruence Divine Mother looked at the incongruence Divine Mother and said naughtily. Forget it then. I haven't had enough cake yet. The incongruence Divine Mother immediately gave in. After the chaos in the day, Guhan successfully resolved the grudge between him and all the disciples of the Jie sect through food diplomacy. At the same time, he became the VIP of the Jie sect. That night, everyone held a feast for the guests on the square and held a joyous bonfire party. Guhan even took the initiative to apologize to the incongruence Divine Mother and incongruence Divine Mother and incongruence Divine Mother. He even said a lot of witty words. Only then did the incongruence Divine Mother smile and officially admit that Guhan was their 9th junior brother and a member of the Jie sect. With the approval of the incongruence Divine Mother and incongruence Divine Mother, Guhan officially joined the Jie sect. The atmosphere of the party reached its climax. Guhan happily played some games passed down from the primordial era with all the demons and sang the songs of the primordial era. In the end, they even got drunk together. Of course, it was not only because of the food. If Guhan did not suppress everyone with his strength and make all the demons speechless, the food diplomacy would not have been as smooth as it was today. In the following time, Guhan stayed in the alternate space with the excuse that he wanted to catch up with his senior sisters and understand the situation of the primordial era. Apart from learning the knowledge of the primordial era and the spells of the Jie sect every day, he would drink and chat with the demons. Guhan's status in the alternate space increased rapidly. Very soon, he was on the same level as the Incongruence Divine Mother and Incongruence Divine Mother and Incongruence Divine Mother and Incongruence Divine Mother were not unhappy about this. After all, Guhan's strength was there, and he was the real ninth junior brother. It was only natural that they were on the same level. Junior brother Guhan, what is your ambition? After a day of drinking, Incongruence Divine Mother suddenly asked Guhan. Senior sister, why are you suddenly asking me this? Hearing Incongruence Divine Mother's question, Guhan asked curiously. Nothing. I just feel a little emotional when I think about how we waste our time here every day. Incongruence Divine Mother sighed. This answer was normal, but it gave off a strange feeling. Alright, since senior sister asked, I'll answer truthfully. Ji-Yuhan smiled and downed the wine in his cup in one gulp. My dream is very simple. I want to end the chaos in the outside world and eliminate all the Yuan bandits. At the very least, I want to eliminate all the filthy and polluted Yuan bandits. Then, I want to lead the humans to rebuild their homeland. I want to let every human walk safely on every piece of land in this world. They don't have to worry about being eaten by someone at any time like now. Chapter 1548. Junior brother, do you still hate us for eating your humans? Hearing Guhan's words, Goddess Yunxiao's expression turned ugly. No, I won't hate this. Guhan smiled. If humans can eat pork and chicken, why can't demons eat human flesh? The weak are prey to the strong, survival of the fittest. This is the great Tao of this world. If I want to blame someone, I should blame the great Tao. Why would I blame senior sisters and my disciples? Are you telling the truth? Goddess Yunxiao looked deeply at Guhan and asked. Yes, it's truer than real gold. Guhan said emotionally. Sigh. Goddess Yunxiao kept silent for a long time and finally straightened her body. With her back facing Guhan, she said plainly, Go, leave tonight. It'll be too late if you don't leave now. Huff huff huff. Goddess Yunxiao didn't get a reply. She turned around and realized that Guhan had already fallen asleep. This guy actually got drunk under the good wine. Fine, this is probably fate. Mistress Yunxiao sighed. Junior brother, hurry up and change your clothes. Hurry up and change into these clothes. Early the next morning, he felt dizzy and cold. As soon as he opened his eyes, he heard the anxious voice of the Incongruence Divine Mother. Senior sister, what's wrong? Why are you rushing me? Could it be that senior sister is getting married? Ji-Yuhan got up from the bed and said with a gloomy face. Little rascal, don't tease me like this. Goddess Wudong knocked Guhan's head and said, Good news, master is back. What? Guhan shuddered and woke up instantly. He asked excitedly, Senior sister, what did you say just now? Can you repeat it again? Who came back? It's master. Master is back. Goddess Wudong said excitedly, I went to the exit just now and realized that Master's consciousness fragment that was left at the exit had been changed. The consciousness fragment that told us to stay calm in this alternate dimension has been replaced by a brand new consciousness fragment. This consciousness fragment is telling us that Master has already recovered and is probably rushing over here to bring us out. Alright, that's enough. Junior brother, hurry up and change into these clothes. Otherwise, when Master gets here, it'll be a great crime of disrespect. The Incongruence Divine Mother urged happily. Alright, I miss you so much. Guhan's face was also full of joy. Of course, he was happy. He had stayed in this alternate dimension for a long time and pretended to be courteous to these monsters. There was only one reason: he wanted to find sect leader Tongtian and then launch a fatal assassination on him. As it turned out, Guhan did not wait in vain. As Guhan had expected, Tongtian had appeared in this strange space. The moment Tongtian showed up would be the best time for Guhan to assassinate Tongtian. Then quickly change your clothes. The incongruent's divine mother threw a set of clothes to Guhan. What clothes are these? Why do I have to change into these clothes? Can't I wear my own clothes? Guhan weighed the clothes in his hand and found that it was a rather old set of clothes. Sniffing it with his nose, he could smell a strong musty smell. He didn't know how long this set of clothes had been in the warehouse. Junior brother, you're a half-baked junior brother after all. You don't know the rules of our Jie school. Usually, we can wear whatever we want. Master won't care about it. But when it's time to formally greet Master, we have to wear our Jie school's Daoist robe. Otherwise, Master will be angry. Look, this is the Jie school's Daoist robe. This is the symbol of our Jie school. Only by wearing this Daoist robe can you be a disciple of our Jie school. Don't look down on this Daoist robe. This Daoist robe is made from the nibbling of an ice silkworm left behind from the primordial era, along with hundreds of rare materials. It can defend against all attacks below the true immortal level, and it can also calm one's mind and balance one's yin and yang. This Daoist robe can only be worn by inner chamber disciples like us. The others can only wear normal robes. This is the symbol of us inner chamber disciples, Incongruent's divine mother said proudly. I see. Guhan nodded and touched the Daoist robe. He found that the texture was indeed unique. There was an icy cold feeling to the touch, accompanied by a kind of stickiness. It was indeed not a feeling that any textile that Guhan knew of could have. But senior sister, it's not the prehistoric era anymore. The ice silkworm is extinct. Where did this Daoist robe come from? Guhan asked curiously. Sigh, this isn't someone else's Daoist robe. It's your poor senior brother Zhao Gongming's Daoist robe. The incongruent's divine mother sighed. This Daoist robe was given to Lady Yun Xiao by junior brother Zhao Gongming before he died. He hoped that Lady Yun Xiao would bring this Daoist robe back to Aquamarine Palace and bury it somewhere. It would be his last wish. Unfortunately, senior sister Yun Xiao was harmed by old Lord Taishang. She was suppressed under the Chilean cliff for God knows how long. This Daoist robe has been with senior sister Yun Xiao. It only found a new owner today. I see. Guhan nodded emotionally. That's weird. Where did senior sister Yun Xiao go? Why didn't she give this Daoist robe to me personally? Oh, senior sister Yun Xiao has to be in charge of the preparations for Master's arrival. For example, things like the incense table and candles. It's rather complicated, so she has to handle it personally. That's why she asked me to guide you. I say, why do you have so much nonsense? If you don't put on this Daoist robe, Master will be here soon, the incongruent's divine mother urged angrily. All right, senior sister, don't be angry. I'll just put it on. It's not a big deal. Guhan laughed and put on the Daoist robe in front of the incongruent's divine mother. The incongruent's divine mother's anger turned into joy. She pulled Guhan's hand and said, hurry to the square. Master will be here soon. When Guhan and the incongruent's divine mother arrived at the square, Lady Yun Xiao was indeed waiting there. At that moment, the entire alternate space was filled with the ringing of a bell. The ringing of the bell sounded extremely shocking at first. It was as if heaven and earth were being split apart. Those with weak cultivation might even have their souls torn apart by the ringing of the bell. However, when they listened to it for the second time, they could feel that apart from the ringing of the bell, there was also an endless murderous aura. Just the sound alone could kill everyone in the world. When they listened to it for the third time, they could hear that everything in the world came from the ringing of the bell. It was as if heaven and earth, as well as the chaos of the universe, originated from the ringing of the bell. All in all, each time they listened to the ringing of the bell, they could hear a completely different feeling. The greatness of the ringing of the bell had already surpassed the limits of what humans could imagine. It's Master's heaven-reaching bell. Master's heaven-reaching seed is ringing. Master is here. When the incongruent's divine mother heard the ringing of the bell, she immediately shouted excitedly. Following the ringing of the bell, there was a song. The song sounded clear and melodious, but at the same time, it was ethereal and extraordinary. It came from the clouds in the sky. It was faint and indescribable. Guhan listened attentively and could clearly hear what the song was about. The principle of splitting heaven and earth is clear, discussing scriptures and techniques in Bo Capital. The 5 Chis gathering essence technique, the 3 flowers at the head perform lifeless. The golden light above his head was colorful, and the red lotus under his feet chased after 10,000 miles. The 8 trigrams immortal robe flew with purple energy, and the 3 sharp treasured sword was named Qing Ping. Subduing tigers and dragons was the first. Capturing demons and restraining monsters was unstoppable. There were about 3,000 disciples, followed by the elites. The heavenly flowers fell endlessly, and the golden lotus bloomed on the ground. It is soundless to enlighten the masses and nurture the right path. The banners led the way, and the music sounded in time. The Kue Nyo sat steadily in front of the Jie sect leader, and the immortal children burned the incense sticks. The dense sandalwood clouds were long, and the murderous aura was dense. When the white crane flew, the world turned, and the green phoenix spread its wings. The sea and mountains were clear. The Grandmaster of Heaven left the Golden Palace and gathered 1,000,000 immortals. Hong Jun was born to see the heavens open, and the ugly man on the altar. He refined the golden body infinite tribulation, and the green touring palace nurtured many talents. As time passed, the song was originally ethereal and unruly, and no one knew where it came from. It became like it was exploding in Guhan's ears. When the last sentence about nurturing many talents in the Green Touring Palace, the incongruent's divine mother immediately pulled Guhan to kneel on the ground. At the same time, she said softly, "Master is already here. Hurry up and kowtow to Master." Boom. After the sound of a heavy object landing on the ground, a leisurely sandalwood fragrance instantly spread throughout the entire square. The 8 great disciples of the Jie sect, the unfilial disciple Wudang, kowtows to the Grandmaster of Heaven. "Master, the world is everlasting, the sun and moon shine together, and is indestructible." The incongruent's divine mother lowered her head and said excitedly. The 8 great disciples of the Jie sect, the unfilial disciple Yunxiao, kowtows to the Grandmaster of Heaven. "Master, the world is everlasting, the sun and moon shine together, and is indestructible." The incongruent's divine mother lowered her head and said excitedly. At this moment, almost all the disciples of the Jie sect knelt down to congratulate their Grandmaster's arrival. Only Guhan raised his head and stole a glance in front of him. He saw an old man standing quietly in front of everyone. His eyes seemed to be filled with the sun, moon, and stars, and was looking at everyone with a look that seemed to have the world in his heart. The Grandmaster of Heaven. It's really the Grandmaster of Heaven. Guhan recognized him immediately. Although this old man was slightly different from the Grandmaster of Heaven he met in Chaser of the 9 States, he was exactly the same as the Grandmaster of Heaven in the last memory of the Sage Relic. The real Grandmaster of Heaven had actually appeared. "Good disciples, it's been hard on you. You've suffered all these years." The Grandmaster of Heaven let out a long sigh and walked slowly to the many disciples who knelt on the ground. He opened his arms gently as if he wanted to hug everyone in his arms. "This is the chance." Guhan's eyes lit up instantly. He unsheathed the Qingping sword in his hand and gathered all the strength in his body. Unexpectedly, he turned into a beam of light in an instant and stabbed toward the Grandmaster of Heaven. Plop! After Guhan stabbed the Qingping sword into the Grandmaster of Heaven's body, the Grandmaster of Heaven's face revealed a look of disbelief. Then, his body exploded in an instant. The Grandmaster of Heaven died just like that. After the explosion, Guhan looked at the Qingping sword in his hand and thought to himself in disbelief. Guhan thought that he would have to go through a tough battle to kill the Grandmaster of Heaven. He never expected that the Grandmaster of Heaven would be killed with just one sword. Chapter 1549. It's fake. Guhan was not stupid. If sect leader Tongtian could be killed so easily, it would not be sect leader Tongtian. Therefore, The moment sect leader Tongtian exploded, Guhan realized that he had killed a fake sect leader Tongtian. At the same time, he might have fallen into a trap. Therefore, he did not care about the others and directly rushed out of the alternate space. Good disciple, stay. Suddenly, countless green lights surged out of nowhere and grabbed at Guhan. Open. The Qingping sword in Guhan's hand danced, and the green lights were all shattered by Guhan in an instant. However, at this time, Lady Yunxiao and Goddess Wudong attacked at the same time. One of them took out a big seal, and the other took out a golden dipper. The big seal instantly turned into a huge mountain and pressed down on Guhan's head. The golden dipper suddenly emitted a strong suction force. The suction force was so strong that it seemed to be able to suck everything in the world into it. Li Mountain Seal and Primordial Chaos Golden Dipper. Seeing these two treasures, Guhan's expression changed instantly. Guhan, who had obtained the memory of the sage's relic, immediately recognized these two treasures. One of them was a primordial spiritual treasure, and the other was a primordial cardinal treasure. They were both the top weapons in Untainted Land, and also the life treasures of Goddess Wudong and Lady Yunxiao. Once these two treasures were in their hands, the strength of these two senior sisters would increase by more than 4 times. However, these two treasures had clearly been taken away by the primordial Lord of Heaven and Taishang Laojun. How did they return to their hands now? Junior brother, don't go. Stay here and wait for Master's punishment, Goddess Wudong said faintly, as if she had long been confident about Guhan's betrayal. I'm afraid you two senior sisters can't stop me, Guhan sneered. He held the Qingpin sword in one hand and the Shenyuan sword in the other. Holding both swords in his hands at the same time, he directly activated the yin-yang sword technique. The power of the two sword ladies increased by more than several times in an instant. Heaven-splitting primal chaos. The two invincible sword ladies crossed each other in the air, and the terrifying sword Qi directly collided with Li Shanyin and primordial chaos golden dipper. Goddess Wudong and Lady Yunxiao did not expect Ji Yuhan to have such a powerful trump card. Even Li Shanyin and the primordial chaos golden chalice could not withstand it. The two of them were sent flying. The houses in the town were turned into ashes by the collision of the 4 ultimate treasures. Countless monsters were bleeding from their orifices due to the strong power. Just as the monsters were about to die from the aftermath of the battle, the green light that had appeared earlier swept into the bodies of the monsters, allowing them to escape from the battlefield. Sect leader Tongtian. Guhan looked at the green light and said while gritting his teeth. After obtaining his natal treasure, Goddess Wudong and Lady Yunxiao were no longer easy opponents. At the moment, sect leader Tongtian was hiding in the dark, so Guhan did not dare to continue fighting. He had to escape immediately. Therefore, after repelling the joint attack of Goddess Wudong and Lady Yunxiao, Guhan did not continue to chase after them. Instead, he fled in the direction of the exit. Sigh, evil disciple. Suddenly, a faint sigh sounded in his heart. Ji Yuhan, who was fleeing for his life, suddenly felt a strong sense of suffocation. His entire body was suddenly squeezed by a huge force. This feeling was like his body was held in the palm of a giant, and at this moment, this giant was planning to crush his body. This Taoist robe is strange. Guhan immediately realized that the strange force came from the Taoist robe he was wearing. On second thought, wasn't this the Taoist robe that Goddess Wudong tried to tempt him to wear? At this moment, even a fool would understand that this Taoist robe was not an ordinary Taoist robe that only had defensive abilities. It was a tool that Goddess Wudong used to plot against him. It was a talisman that would hasten his death. He was completely tricked by Goddess Wudong and Lady Yunxiao. Evil disciple, my 8 trigrams immortal robe is not something that you can wear. Sect leader Tongtian's mocking voice rang in Guhan's ears. This is your 8 trigrams immortal robe. Guhan's eyes widened. The Taoist robe he was wearing was actually sect leader Tongtian's 8 trigrams immortal robe. This robe was not famous in Untainted Land, but it was clearly shown in Saint Jieyin's memory that this 8 trigrams immortal robe was also a primordial spiritual treasure. It was worn by sect leader Tongtian since he was born. It could be said to be one with sect leader Tongtian. Although this robe was worn by Guhan, its owner was still sect leader Tongtian. Therefore, sect leader Tongtian could control this 8 trigrams immortal robe and was ready to crush Guhan's body. It's just a primordial spiritual treasure. Don't even think about trapping me. Guhan gritted his teeth and said. The Qingping sword and the Shenyuan sword in his hands flew up at the same time and pointed their sharp blades at his 8 trigrams immortal robe. Master, please forgive me for being unfilial. Today, I'll use your treasures to destroy your 8 trigrams immortal robe. If the Qingping sword and the Shenyuan sword were both primordial supreme treasures, it would not be too difficult for them to destroy the 8 trigrams immortal robe at the primordial spiritual treasure level. Is that so? Sect leader Tongtian's voice rang out indifferently. Then, the Qingping sword floating behind Guhan suddenly attacked. When Guhan was caught off guard, it directly pierced through the 8 trigrams immortal robe on Guhan's body and pierced through Guhan's heart. Qingping, you. Guhan spat out several mouthfuls of blood. He lowered his head in disbelief and looked at the Qingping sword that had pierced through his chest. Then, his eyes darkened and he instantly fell from the sky, hitting the ground heavily. A huge flame erupted like a nuclear bomb, burning the entire alternate dimension red. Husband, please give up on the Qingping sword lady. Otherwise, one day, she will pierce through your chest. The moment Guhan lost consciousness, Yi Qing's words to Guhan in that small instance rang in Guhan's ears again. I'm sorry, Qing. You were right. I really died in the hands of Qingping. Guhan murmured in pain. Then, he instantly lost consciousness and collapsed on the crimson ground. Master. Lu Shihua, who was arduously commanding the humans to set up defenses and preparing to deal with the attack of Yuan Ku's army, suddenly felt his vision go black. It was as if he had lost something important in his heart. He collapsed in the office, giving the surrounding swordbearers who were waiting for orders a great shock. Guhan. Liuyan Ling felt a sharp pain in her heart as well. It felt as if her heart had been crushed by someone. However, Liuyan Ling was stronger than Lu Shihua, so she struggled and did not faint. At the same time, in a warm room filled with childlike innocence, Ji Fan, who was sleeping soundly, began to wail loudly. It woke up when Maiyun and her daughter, who had not slept for several days. In a world shrouded in darkness, where not a single ray of light could be seen, a blonde girl who was sleeping soundly suddenly opened her eyes. In Mount Paradise, which was singing majestically, the dust on the angel statues that stood on the highest peak of Mount Paradise fell off, revealing the pure white wings wrapped in the dust. In a colorful void world with a large number of floating corpses, a crystal tear fell from a mature beauty's eye. Her limbs were tightly bound by countless chains, making it impossible for her to move. On the side of a river, a middle-aged man trembled as he looked at the water in front of him. Behind him was Fleeting Maple, the balancer from another world, whom Guhan had only met once. Father, this is a calamity that he and she will have to go through. You are already an outsider, so don't interfere. Finally, in the heavenly court that was filled with Buddhas, the Jade Emperor, who was sitting high up with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes as if he had received a signal. He said to the surrounding Buddhas, "Do it." Guhan did not know that his death had ushered in a great change in countless worlds. Cough cough. Guhan finally opened his eyes, and the first thing that came into view was Guhan's own body. However, do not misunderstand, Guhan did not see his own body when he lowered his head. His own body was currently floating in front of him, at least a dozen meters away from him, and the Qingping sword was still stuck in his heart. As for how Ji Han could see the body that was more than 10 meters away from him, it was naturally because Ji Han's head had been separated from his body. The headless body stood in the distance, while Guhan's head was somewhere else. Sorry, Guhan had lost the ability to lower his head, so he could only see the scenery in front of him. Guhan could not see what was below his head. You're awake. A familiar voice sounded in his ear. Although Guhan could not see the owner of the voice, he could tell that it was Lady Yun Xiao's voice. I would rather not have woken up. Guhan looked at his separated body, his eyes filled with deep sorrow. I already reminded you to leave, but you. Lady Yun Xiao's voice contained many complicated emotions. Thank you, senior sister, but there are some things that cannot be avoided. You made your choice, and I made my choice too. As for Qingping, she has also made her own choice. Ji Yuhan said indifferently. There was not the slightest hint of regret in his words, only endless sorrow. Being stabbed in the heart by his first sword lady, who was also his favorite and most treasured sword lady, was the biggest blow to Guhan. Guhan's heart was already broken, although Guhan did not have a heart now. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.